Where we going with it? Now where we going with it? Where we going with it? What? Where we going with it? Ha! Yo, where we going with it? Ha! Where we going? Going back to Kemetic, styling, profiling. It's been a long time.
How many years?
About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. I'm going back to Kemetic, styling, profiling. It's been a long time.
How many years?
About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. I seen kingdoms come and I seen kingdoms fall. You could check it for yourself. You could read it on the wall like graffiti on the wall. Menyet is what it's called. I taught y'all in the past. Now I'm back to teach you all how to elevate and repent from filthy ways. I know it's hard, but it feels good to fast for 30 days. I got y'all searching for the land that's across the burning sands, where the men turn into gods and the gods turn into men. The jewel of the Nile is in the motherland. Each one teach one, so go tell your brother, man. You're feeling down, then you got to snap back like a rubber band. Lord, going back to Kemetic, styling, profiling. It's been a long time.
How many years?
About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. I'm going back to Kemetic, styling, profiling. It's been a long time.
How many years?
About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. Hey. All the words I chant when I come forth by day. From the night, these sacred chapters I recite. Do my voodoo every day till I feel some things are right. Speaking in words of power, speakers get blown. Ancient tradition, deep in your bones. Ancient wisdom, speaking in poems. Melodies take you deep in the zone. I'm going back to Kemetic, styling, profiling. It's been a long time.
How many years?
About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. I'm going back to Kemetic, styling, profiling. It's been a long time.
How many years?
About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. Too many youth wanna ride and die. I try to tell them about the I and I. In my presence, I got y'all feeling divine essence. I come through dropping jewels that's full of timeless lessons. Not Egyptian, I'm Kemetic, spitting poetic relics from the highest mind. Look to the skies to find where I am headed. I come when I be spitting, y'all be playing, hating me. I don't know, probably cause I'm serious like A and B. And C, we alike sometimes more than we would like. I got the gift of gab, I was born to speak on mics. Got raw in me glowing, now I shine like skies in Cali. I represent the hood and that hood is the Nile Valley. They call it Hoppy, the illest of the niggas. Nah, that's not me, I'm that golly representative. Spit the hottest sentences with the eye for rule. I see the evil that lurks in you. I live by 10 virtues that stops me from hurting you. I use oracles, so nowadays I plan better. Now I walk in the presence of God's angels and ancestors. Walking my path, speaking in code, talking in math. I got an inner divinity, mental serenity. I walk in my eye, even on my path alone. And in these zone, man, I got heart like Indiana Jones. I'm not a raider, but a raiser of the lost ark, the monarch of a righteous covenant. You ain't liking it, you loving it. I show y'all sacred ways from the ancient of days. The metaphysical master manifesting the greatest displays of mind control. Connect the spirit, mind, and the soul. I rhyme with flows that opens up your mind so you grow like the trees, but of course not the kind that you smoke, but the kind that keeps you rooted in tradition. I bring it back like how it was in the beginning. Going back to Kemetic, styling, profiling. It's been a long time.
How many years?
About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. I'm going back to Kemetic, styling, profiling. It's been a long time.
How many years?
About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
welcome to Paradigm Shift TV 314. This is your brother, DMG the Poet, aka Brother Pianki. And we got a powerful show for y'all with a powerful guest. I call her the queen, but I'm gonna let the sister introduce herself after I do my spiel. Let me say hotep to my fellow Kemetic brothers and sisters. Let me say God bless to my Christian brothers and sisters. Let me say Islam to my Moorish brothers and sisters. Let me say Assalamu alaikum to my brothers and sisters in the NOI. Let me say peace to my brothers and sisters in the nation of gods and earth, them 5%ers. Let me say what's up to my atheist brothers and sisters. Let me say what's up to my Abo brothers and sisters. And let me say shalom to my Israelite brothers and sisters. And last but not least, let me say Jambo to the rest of my brothers and sisters throughout the African diaspora, be it here in the wilderness of the United States of America or beyond. Y'all know I say that greeting for one reason and one reason only. It's because if you're Black, I'm with you, and I hope you with me. Our different ideologies should not keep us from uniting, and we can disagree without being disrespectfully disagreeable, and we can have unity without uniformity. With that being said, my sister, please reintroduce yourself to the Paradigm Shift TV 314 audience.
EnMaat. Of course, the first thing I thought of was like, let me bust out some little Jay-Z, like, my name is, like, no, let me stop. So EnMaat, everybody. My name is Menyet Menta. I am a Kemetic practitioner. I have my own channel and just Facebook groups, things like that. And my whole aim is to essentially show contemporary people what it looks like to actually live as a regular Kemetic person, simply because most of the people who are out there are usually priests, and I use that term very but that my hesitation will make more sense a little bit later. So you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, but mostly on Instagram. That's where I am the most. So yeah, that's my intro. Hi everybody.
And the sister puts out powerful content. Y'all should follow her, get some game from her. So make sure you follow her on all those platforms. So sis, you know why we're here. I sent you a series of videos not too long ago that I wanted to discuss. And they by two people that I'm well acquainted with, that I consider friends. And so with that being said, I thought that there were some errors being made within the framework of this video, but just based on the title alone. And I think you agreed. And so I say, let's get to the bottom of what was wrong with this video. And as the video is called, What Kemetic Spirituality Is Not, because they clearly got some things wrong, and with you being a genuine practitioner as opposed to somebody who shows a little interest, I think you're qualified to speak on it.
Okay. So I guess I'm gonna start out with, I'm literally only having this conversation because you asked me. Because this conversation in general, I think is such a waste of time. Like, it really is. You know, I've said this to you a gajillion and one times. Right. If y'all have watched any of the previous times I've been on, I know I've said it at least once every time. So I want to preface this with two very specific things. Menyet speaks for Menyet. I don't speak for everybody. Realistically, some of the stuff I'm gonna say tonight is gonna piss off one side and the other side. And truth is the truth. It's gonna be what it's gonna be, and I'm okay with that. Secondly, I am not debating. This is not a debate. I'm not gonna sit here and debate philosophy. I'm not going to debate methods. I'm not going to debate dogma. I'm not going to debate doctrine. I'm not going to debate spirituality or religion. Like, that is very subjective. And if it grooves with you, Cool. What grooves with me, grooves with me. What grooves with y'all, grooves with y'all. I already, grew up as a Christian person, and not like, I know I've heard some of the talk before, like, oh, well, they're not real Christians. Like, no, I was an actual youth pastor and everything. Like, I was a for real, read the Bible for real Christian. So please don't come at me with, oh, she don't even know. Like, okay, I'm not like, I didn't go to seminary, but I'm no dummy. So I'm not gonna sit here and bash anybody because I don't believe in that. One, because it's not my addict. I will not be a woman of anger. I understand the other side has their opinions. They have what moves them, why it moves them, all of that stuff. But that doesn't mean that needs to dictate how I behave and how I respond. So if, for whatever reason, whomever decides to want to make a response video or something like that, and then they're gonna be, she's not responding because she's scared. No, I'm not responding because I got better things to do than to go back and forth with people on the internet who respect me in my everyday life. Like, it just doesn't. Like, a lot of people are doing this back and forth so that they could get clicks respectfully. Like, they're doing Christian capitalism, like, or I don't even want to say Kemetic capitalism because, again, most of the people that were listed in those videos are not even Kemetic. Only 2 technically were out of, like, I think it was like a list of 10. Right. I have to go back in my notes, but those people are not. And I'm like, for a long time, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to say no names. Sonnetter is not Kemetic. Please stop bringing him up. He is essentially a battle rap organizer. That's it. He gets different people, brings them on so they could argue to grow his channel because controversy sells, gets him clicks, and makes him money. Let's be clear. He is not like, yes, I understand his mission originally may have been to educate, put information out there and all that. That is not what it is no more. Who's that? Who's the one from back in the day? Something Suit and Seti, which every other word.
Cyrus Suit and Seti, who by the way has SETI in his name and all of that, but says the Meta Nature is not deciphered. But go ahead.
Like, it's just no. The person they bought up, Young Pharaoh.
The first person on the video, by the way. He was the first person they talked about on the video, by the way.
Yeah, and it's just like you use this person as an example. Like, this person is, again, a capitalist, a influencer. Because, again, I'm like, I don't know who's out here listening to him. Who's the other one that from down in Florida, and he got arrested for touching on his girlfriend's daughter or something like that, like last year or something. But I can't remember. But like that guy, it's a bunch of them that's like on YouTube, and they maybe read a book or two. They sit at the feet of an elder and they're like, oh, I can make money off of this. So they get on the internet and they put stuff out there, and it don't be right. It be super manipulated for their own interests. Like, these people, like I said, are capitalists. They see a market of people who are hurting, people who thank you. Like, these people are not Kemetic. Please, not even please, respectfully, stop calling them Kemetic because you're dead ass wrong. Like that it just doesn't even make sense. Just because a person is talking about, because Kemet was the black land and da-da-da-da-da, like, they're repeating, or not even repeating, they're parroting history. And they're parroting history from a few people. Now, I get it. Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, like, all of these people are respected elders. They are people that are generally read by a certain population of people. But just because you read those books does not make you Kemetic. Just because you agree with and cherry pick some ideas does not make you Kemetic in general. Like, it's amazing that there were 2 whole shows, and the definition of a Kemetic person is just a person. Like, I wrote it in my notes somewhere. I was so annoyed. It was a Kemetic person is a person who believes in, like, going back to the African ways. I was like, so Sankofa? A Kemetic person is a person who believes in Sankofa. Beloved, go read a book. I'm sorry.
Kemetic people are the only people that can practice Sankofa.
what? Have you met somebody who practices like pretty much anything that's not Christian or Abrahamic in nature? Like what? I can't. So that was just like, and I'm gonna say, man, again, I'm like, I'm so sorry about the names. DNew, that's her name, right?
DNew, yep.
DNew. So I appreciate her making the effort to be respectful. There were only a few times that I felt like it was she was intentionally disrespectful, and it was more like snickering or stuff like that. But for the most part, I do appreciate, because anytime I've ever glanced at the whole apologist versus this one, it always ends up being disrespectful. And I understand, and this is the other side to, you know, how did we get here? So because of certain YouTube channels putting on battle rap like things and name calling and being disrespectful to Christianity in the first place, that is how we got here. That is why the apologists are coming after us.
That's exactly what it is. Like I keep telling people, this started because of what Shaka, Polite, Sarah Suit, and Seti, when they were standing on the street, banging with the Hebrews, banging against the Bible. This is a response to that. And this is them attempting to keep the same energy. This ain't come out just out of the blue. Man, this has been a steady climb towards this climate. Now, genuine Kemetic practitioners, people trying to reconstruct this tradition, are the ones who are like, where this come from? What we got to do with this? Because I keep, the first thing you said to me, I think I brought up Christianity, and you was like, yeah, I don't even talk about Christians or Christianity. That's their thing. This my thing. And I was like, damn, that's what's up. So I knew right off the bat, damn, her energy totally different from, it's a distinction between people actually doing their own spiritual thing and not worried about what nobody else doing, not judging what nobody else doing, versus other people trying to, like you say, bring attention to themselves. Go ahead, I ain't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. I'm hearing myself. So just on that specific point, now I'm like, he gonna get mad at me, but I know he is, and he knows I got nothing but love for him. But Shaka Amos, I very much respect the fact that he is so detailed. He is like, I have learned a lot from him historically. He's very good as a resource for literature and things like that. Like, so I definitely want to give him his flowers for what it is he does and does contribute. However, as much as people want to bring him up, he has time and time again not actually said that he practices Christianity. He says he kind of does his own thing. So yes, as a scholar, now mind you, I understand some of his ways rub people the wrong way, but he's okay with that. And, you know, there's nothing I could say. However, breaking of the 42 does happen, you know, within sometimes the conversations. And it would be my wish that as I say this, and I'm like, oh, he probably gonna beat me up, but that's okay. I do wish that he would kind of represent us, if he's going to claim us, that he would be a little more methodic about it. But again, controversy sells, so I get it at the same time. But like any person who I would say is actually a practicing Kemite avoids watching the debates, avoids having certain conversations, and it's not out of fear, it's just, it is annoying. It is unnecessarily stressful. And again, it doesn't have any impact on my everyday life. Like, I know I've gotten into not battles. I know I've gotten into disagreements on some of the forums that I'm sure DNew looked for, you know, her information. And I've even gotten it from people like, what you talking about? We have to talk to the Christians because some of our people are caught in there and we got to get them out. Honestly, as Kemetic people, no, we don't. No, the F we don't. Where, and again, Shaka has mentioned that there was an example of evangelism, but it was during the Roman period. Like, it was not indigenous. Like, I have yet to see where evangelism was throughout Kemetic history. Like, throughout Kemet, everybody was allowed to kind of do their own thing and people had respect. Now, granted, it's thousands of years of history. It's not going to be clear cut for the whole entire time, but for the majority of that time, we were not evangelizing. So being responsible for your brother and you know, making sure that people see the light, like, that's not even Kemetic. Please stop bringing Western and Christian stuff into Kemet, because that's not what we do. And it's like, you know, I know the American way that we've been raised is, you know, to do those things, but you know, that don't belong. It doesn't go in this puzzle over here that we are trying to put together. So please, there are a lot of different things, and some of them will come up today, but please leave them. Like, if you are a person who's like, I'm gonna leave Christianity, literally leave it. Think about it. Don't just sit and be mad about it. Don't sit and cuss at people on the internet, because you're just going to give yourself a heart attack and a stroke over it. Like, it's really not worth it. If you decide to leave and be done. Stop entertaining. So, okay.
Now, you know, and you know, I got to say this to you, because you know, every time you come on here, I get a text or an inbox. Somebody get thirsty. So I'm not going to say what the comment was.
I'm glad you did.
It was very respectful, but I got to warn you, you know, it's coming. So just be mindful. And it's a curse of your genetics, I guess.
Oh, my parents. Gosh, Het Haru, why did you do this to me? I'm done. So I'm trying to see if I missed anything. Oh, okay. So there are two other things, and I did have my my little PowerPoint to go. Side note, because just before I even put this up there, I need to give a little disclaimer. Because I was having fun preparing with this, I decided to go with a cartoon anime theme, because that's how silly this is to me. So, you know, I don't know if people are going to take it the right way or not the right way, but
don't even worry about
it. I had fun. So I'm not sure. How do I could just hit present, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
Or share.
Video file, share screen slides. Google. So, oh, okay. This is different. My bad, y'all.
Oh, okay, do say present now. I'm used to it saying share. I didn't even check. I didn't even peep that. Okay.
Yeah, no. So it wants me to share my whole screen, but I don't want my notes to show at the same time. So I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna just talk then, and it is gonna be what it's gonna be. We're gonna make it work.
Okay,
all right.
Now, if you pull up the video, I can. If that helps.
I'm not even at the video part yet.
Oh, okay.
Not even there yet. So a couple of things that I just kind of wanted to lay down, like, foundationally in watching those videos. It was a lot of name calling. It was a lot of belittling. It was a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and outright just, that's not true. So I did, as part of like the PowerPoint, I had 7 types of mis and disinformation. So 1, misleading content. A lot of the books that they had on the table were not written by Kemetic people, nor were they primary sources. Actually, some of them were written by Christian people. So it's like, what? No. So that. Imposter content, did they have any? I don't believe they had any imposter content that I can recall. Fabricated content, yes. I don't know if all of it was purposeful, but there were some things in there that were just outright like, no, that's not true. False connections, heavy with that. there were like in the beginning of the video, their example. I put this in one of the promos, like the what was it, the Brooklyn bomber stabber shooter.
Oh man, that tripped me out. that trip, I was like, for real, y'all?
That's a stretch.
This what we doing?
Yeah, and it's just like, again, I don't know where she's from, but clearly you don't know Brooklyn, because like that whole, the commentary on it was just like, oh, and that person did a violent act, and we looked on their YouTube because that's a credible place to find information about human beings, and not what they decide to present to the world, but like their actual true self and nature. Okay. And we went on there, and there was a lot of conscious Kemetic talking points. Beloved, let me know what the talking points are, because I have yet to get the memo of what and where those talking points even are. Now, again, if you're talking about these suckers on the internet that like to repeat stuff that is from like 1960, 1970, and have yet to do any further scholarship or thought since then, they just repeating it to people, do you? But don't say that that's a Kemetic talking point. Don't do that.
What got me though is, now when somebody does somebody harm and they purport to be a Christian, the first thing they say is they not really a Christian.
Oh, Dahmer was a Christian. He converted and he ate people.
Yeah, I just got through going back and forth with somebody because they was like on a Facebook post, like, why y'all not canceling Jeffrey Dahmer? And they
what kind of comeback is that?
They fancy themselves a Christian apologist. I was like, first of all, he dead. But never mind that. I say, bro, if what my man say about Jeffrey Dahmer is true, he gonna be in heaven with you.
Yeah,
black people in his belly and all. So are you good with that? But then I don't think he was really a Christian. I don't think he really converted. Like, it's a whole. First of all, you have no idea what this man did. But that's the argument we get when we get to that type of situation. But when it's this, he had a whole lot of Kemetic for real.
Mm-hmm. Man, and then went on to say, oh, because that line of thinking is dangerous. I was like, so wasn't the Oklahoma City bombing supposed to be religious related or whatever? Like, we've had shootings, we've had serial killers, we've had, like, how many entertainers wear the cross in y'all name, but y'all don't make that apples to apples. Like, it's only because we're outsiders and we're not Christians that you want to scare people into saying, oh, this is what those people are about. Like, can we please evolve? Like, if you're gonna come for me for real. Like, don't use third grade tactics. Don't do that. And again, I understand the people who started this started with third grade tactics. Right. They did. They're very immature. They're very angry. And that's one of the things that I also had in my presentation, where it's like, if you're talking about, like, let's say Atkinson's theory of minority development. So, like, you have this whole thing. It's 5 steps, because now I had to pull it up because I can't off the top of my head go. But it's like, okay, step 1, conformity. And if anybody want to look this up, it's minority identity development model. It's a whole, like, psychological, sociological thing. And people actually studied and like came up with this theory to explain how minority people figure out their identity in general within society. So step 1 is conformity. So conformity is self-depreciating. It's all about wanting to be part of the group at the sacrifice of oneself. Sounds like a certain religious affiliation, but I'm not gonna say nothing because I'm not here to talk that much.
Right.
So stage 2, conflict between self-depreciating and appreciating. So the person is having internal conflict. We see this like if you were to go on YouTube and watch any of those doll tests and you see some of the children when they say, which one's the bad one, which is the good one, which is the ugly one, which is the pretty one, now which one looks like you, and the kids are like confused, they don't know how to answer, that inner conflict. So that would be step 2, where you're kind of like back and forth torn. Then you got stage 3, which is resistance and immersion. So there is still a lot of appreciating, but we can also see between step 2 and 3, depending on the individual, one of the features of that is anger, extreme anger, because they're resentful that I am in this situation. I can't be part of the wider group, because as human beings, we are social beings. We want to be part of the group. We want to be accepted. So like if these people are step 2 and 3, but there are 5 steps. So 5 steps is introspection. So that is you're self-appreciating, but you can be fair when talking about your own as well as the other side. Like you can be neutral, I guess, if you will. And then synergetic articulation and awareness, that's step 5. That is all about like, I understand the struggle of my people. I also understand the struggle of your people. And you know what? Both of us should stand up for those people over there because they're catching hell for similar reasons than us. And it's like, so again, these people on the internet, on these Facebook groups, which are disgusting, like you got people in there taking Buddhist beliefs and saying they're Kemetic. You got people in there doing Hindu stuff saying it's Kemetic. Like it's a big behind confused place. So if anybody's trying to actually look into being a Kemetic person, do not go on no Facebook groups. You will not find anything but anger and disrespect. So like, I'm just saying. Like, don't do that, or try not to. But that's what those groups, that's what a lot of these shows are all about. Like, even if we were to look at the political landscape of the United States, it's all about anger now. It's all about violence. So like, I'm a school teacher, and like, I'm not going to say too much because of where I work, and you know, I don't need folks being mad at me telling what's going on, but y'all, the state of education these days, y'all, it's not that great. But the kids are hurt. The kids are very angry, and very quick to violence compared to how they used to be. So it's, you know what I mean? It's permeating in every single way. Like if you were to watch TV on the news, and you see people talking about politics, like people are getting into fist fights and stuff over beliefs, like over beliefs. And this whole conversation, and when I say this, I'm not necessarily including myself because, you know, I'm not about that jazz, but having conversations where one is talking about the truth, and is it real? Is it real? Like what? Reality is subjective. If you ask a schizophrenic person about their reality versus someone who has autism versus like everyone's reality is different. So don't come to a philosophical, ethical, spiritual conversation and be talking about truth and what's right, because that no, that it just doesn't even make any sense. But again, because the Christian church is like, don't question. If you ask critical questions, then you know you're a blasphemer, you're a heretic. You can't do that if it's questioning the church. You can be critical of other people. You can be critical of sinners and bad guys, but don't be critical of the church. Meanwhile, people are stealing the money. People are tithing until they're on food stamps. People are, you know, people are hurt. People don't have jobs. Like, look at the state of relationships. And we've talked about relationships. People's husbands and wives are walking out on them and not talking to them and all this, that, and the third. And y'all are worried about Kemetic people? Like, you know, and again, this was part of what I wanted to say, like with the whole, I'm like, let me scroll up. Like when you look at statistics, the whole reason they're going hard for us is because they're losing membership. There's a breach. But rather than addressing their own breach as to how it got that way, no critical thinking, they they're like, oh, it's those people's fault because they're blasphemers because they believe in afterlife and poop. And it's like, y'all got verses talking about was it Israelites or whatever? Y'all got stuff about poop and somebody collecting foreskins for the king and like, oh, come on.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
So you can chuckle and laugh and say, oh, well, the 42, they're chants, ha ha ha, they're chants when they're not. And then on top of that, you're going to be like, oh yeah, so they're chanting with their pigs and their chickens. What are you saying? What are you really saying? Because most cultures understand pigs to be dirty animals, and you're insinuating that they're in my house? But you can't see that you're being disrespectful. But if I say something to you, it's my fault. And again, we are here because internet dweebs decided to pick this fight. And I'm suffering the consequences and having to hear nonsense and being talked about because these are the people who just want to make money off of it. Like, this is not.
And that's what I mean. It's not fair to you that you got to deal with the pushback from a polite or a young pharaoh or a SETI. That like, what you ain't you and people in your particular spiritual house ain't got nothing to do with what these people have said.
Now, those people have never shown up, never had a one-on-one conversation, never sat with us, never ate with us, never talked to us. But they supposedly represent us. So I stated about falsifying groups, then falsely look at some Christians. Keyword, first of all, some, because I'm only addressing the people in the video and what they said. Let's start with that. And two, if you're going to say something, please be specific, because I'm not a mind reader. I don't know y'all on the interwebs. So please be specific. Don't just type a little bit. Be specific so I can actually answer. Sorry, I'm all worked up now. My bad. Let me mind my tone. Let me not be a woman of anger. Let me lose.
You're good, sis. You're good. And the brother who said that is actually somebody who you can have a real conversation with.
Oh, speaking of real conversation. So part of what my point or why I refuse to talk about this with the people who are in the video is simply because the evangelical thinking and the ideas that they cleave to of Christian superiority. Like, there is no talking to that. There is no even agreeing to disagree, because everything I say is wrong, because everything that I have to say, well, not, I don't want to say everything. Most of the things I have to say are not in their religious texts. So if it's not in their religious text, it's not part of their reality. Therefore, we can't even have a conversation, because we're on two different places, which again, that's why I say this is like having these conversations about, Haru and Jesus came from Haru and this, that, and the third. It's 2022. I have bills to pay. Inflation is high. I need to buy a car. I don't care. That has nothing to do with anything except a bunch of. It really doesn't matter. Like, just it was some other point. Let me look at my that's what it was. So again, I'm not battling Christian theology or dogma or any of that stuff, because respectfully, a lot of the whole evangelist ways are not even necessarily Jesus based. They are like Paul based. So I'm not even gonna go there, because it's skewed. It's very skewed. And I'm not saying that to, how do I say, like dig at them. I'm saying like there's an actual biblical scholar that said that. That's where I got that from. And if people want to know, I can, look it up. For some reason, I don't know why I didn't write it down, because I wrote down a whole bunch of other crap. But I didn't write down the name of that one. And just in general, the whole idea, like when watching the video, and then I think this is going to be my last one and we can kind of like press play or what have you, is this whole idea of like just the evangelical movement and evangelical theology overall does come out of Europe. Like it comes from the Great Awakening. It's not even necessarily a long-term Christian thing. Like that junk started coming about in the 18th century. Like it's a modern thing. So it's definitely rooted in, you know, certain racial supremacies and things like that. So some of the arguments that people, that they were making in there about like, oh, well, you know, Kemetic people hate white people. They hate Christians because they read a book that they read the definition of Afrocentricity and then deduce that it meant that they hate
Exactly.
Christians weren't even mentioned in the definition, like nowhere in there. But
it's Christians who consider themselves Afrocentric. So how is it like that? And listen, I hate to break this to some people. It's white people, people of European descent, who consider themselves, in terms of what Afrocentric means, they consider themselves Afrocentric just because of a love of the culture. Not on an appropriation tip, but just because of a love of the culture. Now, some Black people not comfortable with that, but that's how they feel. So how can that term mean hatred for white people or anti-white? Mm-hmm. You made that up.
Yeah, and again, that comes from a place that, again, is not necessarily biblically based. Like you're basing this off of societal traditions from a time period that is not now. So you're carrying on certain things that it's just like, okay, that's outdated. And compare this to like, what's his name? Vince Bantu, where he had a couple of videos where he was talking about like, basically, we're not talking about the European version of Christianity. We're talking about like the Coptic version, because I'm like, y'all haven't been to Ethiopia. Y'all don't go to Ethiopia. Y'all are not speaking Amharic and all these different things. Like listening to that. And again, if this is the same camp, I don't know if they're close, they're cool, they're not. I don't know. I'm just saying I've seen a select few people because, again, I ain't really trying to watch none of this. I watch what people send me. So, but he's out here trying to make this whole argument of, well, Christianity is really African and, you know, because the Copts converted and blah, blah, blah. But that's not what was presented in that other video. Like most of the things that they were referencing are evangelical ideals. And again, part of what I had prepared, they had State of Theology, which is, it's like a loose research thing. Like I wouldn't pin anything. It's not Pew Research. But they did like an informal study. And what they ended up finding is that a lot of Christians are much more politicized than actually following Christian doctrine, traditional Christian doctrine. Like the idea that, shoot, it's one of the charts that I had. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm like, let me see. So one chart, it says Christians should be silent on issues of politics. And it's like 60-something% of the people who participated in this study said, no, Christians need to be all in politics, which is very interesting because, you know, I thought we're trying to be not in the world, not of the world, but we're making laws in the world, but you know, whatever. And outside of religious spaces, religious belief is a matter of personal opinion. It's not about objective truth. Most people disagreed with that. Oh, like 60-something% disagreed. There was one that I thought was really interesting. Then they asked about like gender identity and stuff like that and sex outside of marriage. So the Bible is 100% accurate in all that it teaches. So this was interesting because it's just over 50% of agree and just under 50% for disagree. So it's very interesting that you have a lot of Christian people who are like, nah, the Bible's not 100% accurate. Like, oh, wow. Oh, and these are studies put together by Christian groups. Like, I'm not just getting this out of nowhere. God counts a person as righteous not because of one's work, but only because of their faith. Over 50%, I want to say it's almost like 60% agree. So it doesn't matter what kind of person you are, as long as you believe. Like that's all you got to do. God learns and adapts to different circumstances. Okay, that's over 50% agree. God accepts the worship of all religions, including Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. That is almost 70%. So it's very interesting to see how politicized Christianity has become recently, and how far away from the ideals in general they have gone. But somehow that's Kemetic people's fault. The fact that rather than, what is that quote? Love your neighbor as yourself. But sometimes my neighbor is not me. And sometimes my neighbor has needs and wants and experiences that I don't have. That if I forcefully, put my will on them, they're not going to receive it. I mean, look at in the state of like, again, relationships. You can't go to your wife or your husband and say, oh, well, I did this for you, and that's not what they needed. Like, I need you to wash the dishes. I need you to call me to let me know you home on time. I don't need you to buy me a purse. Like, you're not fulfilling the need, but it's the same thing on a societal level. So taking away or people who we disagree with and creating laws, you can't get married, you can't have access to healthcare. And I'm not necessarily talking about abortion. I'm talking about literal not passing healthcare. And again, these are political issues, but somehow it all got weaved into Christianity, and it doesn't even belong there. So now people are alienated. People feel like one of them. They feel like whatever I do, I'm a sinner anyways. They're not empowered. They don't connect. And then what do? You call them names, belittle them, make fun of them, isolate them. And then you're mad that they come to other spaces. Like, I don't understand that. So with that, let's get to the videos. I saw the comment. Shut up.
Is that who was that? Oh, my boy D.Y. Yeah. Nah, he just anxious. He ain't telling you to shut up. You can rant. And you at home. You can rant for as long as you want to.
I got work tomorrow, so I got to be a little limited.
Gotcha. We can get to it.
Okay.
And for those who are so inclined, y'all see it up there, donate to the Queen Cash App. It's up on the screen. Donate to the Queen Cash App. $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, $100. Donate to the Queen Cash App.
Thank you. To all. Or Nehem, my bad, Nehem.
Let me know when you got it up.
I have it. I just don't know how to share it. That's the problem.
Okay. And you hit the present button?
Yeah, but then it wants to show the whole screen. That's the problem. Like, it won't let me just show a tab.
That's interesting. Oh, okay. So now when you hit share screen, it wants you to show the whole thing.
Yeah. So it'll show everything, not just the one tab.
Now, what if can you open it on more, like open the particular thing you want to show, and then
oh, you're so smart. I try.
The big head ain't for nothing.
All All right, I'm gonna try two things. I'm gonna just do the whole screen. My bad, y'all. To those of y'all watching, like, damn, get it together. I've been in Zoom meetings where I be thinking that, so I'm sorry, y'all. I want to be accountable. All right, open system preferences. Oh, look at me, I was wrong. My bad. So do I need to, is this like Zoom where I have to mute myself when I play video?
I don't think so. Let's find out. We'll find out.
All right. So I wanted to start with, hold on, where'd I go now? About this one. And then I'm gonna play the other one.
Christians don't want to converse unless we convert. That's it. That's all we want to talk for.
Oh, yikes.
Unless we're converting you.
Wait a minute.
We don't want to have a conversation.
Wait a minute.
Sorry.
Wow.
I just had that thought, like, no, we don't know anything else. We don't know about what other people do. We don't know. So we're not confident enough to talk about what we do because we can't talk about what nobody else does.
So the last part of what she said, I disagree. I think enough people could hold on a basic conversation about their own beliefs, let alone other people's. But that was just like, when I heard we don't talk to people unless we trying to convert them. And I'm like, yeah, that's dead ass true. Like, I've never had a Christian person. No, let me rephrase that. It's very far and few between that I have an actual respectful, like, we just sit down, we sharing ideas, this, that, and the third with a Christian person. And those are only two people that I'm very close to and have known for years.
Okay. And see that's the difference. That's the difference between my experience. I'm in a group called Let's Dialogue with some brothers, and you know, they don't call themselves this. I kind of call them this, and another brother call them this, the one. And they different in that we just rap. Like they very seldomly do they, you know, throw something out there like, you know, you're supposed to be on our side or something like that. You know, they might throw a little joke out there like that. But other than that, and when I say seldomly, it's seldom. So, you know, but so for me, and I got a lot more respect for that than for somebody to constantly be beating me over the head with when you're gonna get saved and when you're gonna that would make me stop talking to them.
Yeah.
But we actually have conversations about the nuances of belief and this and that. And so I respect them a little more because they coming from a little bit of a different angle, at least with me. I don't know how it is with everybody else, but with me, that's how it is. So that when you say it's the people who've known you for a while, how did they take it when you moved away from Christianity?
So, so I'm trying to think of how to say it without telling people business. So one person is grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and the other one was a Jehovah's Witness. So, pew pew, which is why it was so surprising that like we could have such conversations. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that sometimes because of, you know, the certain beliefs that like somebody definitely did tell me, well, you know, you definitely going to hell. And I'm like, oh, damn, that's amazing. I don't believe in hell because it's not real, but you know, whatever, I love you anyway. So it's like that. But the one person said to me like, oh, you know, once they went through a divorce and was kind of like isolated from their religious experience and stuff like that, that is what kind of made them, you know, because before that experience, we just kind of was like, hey, how are you? Good. All right. And that's it. So it was only when, you know, kind of like the channels were opened up to kind of have more respectful conversations. And for the person who's the Seventh-day Adventist, like I said, I used to be a youth minister and stuff like that. So I don't really mind having those kind of conversations, and a lot of those conversations would come up because that person has children. So like how to kind of, you know, the struggles that they were having and stuff like, and that's kind of like how it opened up. But outside of that, I've been told I'm going to hell so many times. I was dating a person once and they started saying, I'm like, if you all keep saying that, we can't see each other no more. And well, clearly they're not around. So yeah, no, I haven't met many people who are understanding. So you are very lucky. Very, very lucky. So I'm gonna scroll down, and
Christians don't want to converse unless.
No, lady. Sorry. I'm like, I was trying to go to the next one. It's can you see that?
Woo.
I told y'all I had a whole anime thing ready.
Right.
So all right.
Was Ma'at a historical figure for them, like a real figure, a real goddess? Was there like an actual Ma'at? Or?
Some people believe that she was a real person who became a deity. Some people believe that Ma'at is simply a principle of nature.
The most common position among Kemetics is these are stand-ins for principles or elements.
Yeah.
So Ma'at is not real.
Most of them don't think so. It's rare to find one who thinks these gods are real.
And that's the only reason I ask that is because
I'm sorry. Like the promo. Like the promo. Like it's cultural relativism. Like you have no respect for nobody else who's different than you. Seriously? Is it real? What? Like you out your mind. Because again, they teach that their stuff is real, and we just don't approach it like that. So because we don't approach it like that, oh well, it must not be real.
Oh, something got to be wrong. Yeah.
And then what is it? Some people believe she was a real person. Where? Who? Not a freaking person. Not one person thinks that. Like if you read the mythos, you understand where she came from. It's not a person. We all understand this. But again, that's what you get when you have outsiders trying to hurry up and learn some information and then regurgitate incorrect information. Like, nah. And this is, I'm going to try to let it play. But the Egyptians, so the Kemetic thought she was real. I'm going to tell you, like I tell my AP kids, give me some sources. I need evidence. Give me evidence. Like, where is it that it says that they believe she was a real human being? Where? And if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. I have no problem with that. But I have yet to see it. I have yet to experience that from anybody else. So
and before we go, we move forward. Just you ain't, I don't want to know where you work or none of that. But just what is your educational background, real quick?
Oh, me? So my undergrad is in Africana Studies. My master's degree is in multicultural education, and I've decided education is super expensive, so I was going to get a doctorate, but I changed my mind.
Okay, so it's not a stretch for me to say that history is something you do.
I don't know everything, but I know a lot of things, and I have Google and a library card, and I'm right up there, not right up the street, but I'm like 30 minutes away from the Schomburg Library, so.
There it is.
I don't know. I'm gonna go find it.
I just wanted to, make sure we had that understood.
No problem. So, you ready to hang your head some more?
I am.
Hey, good to see you again. This is Michael Williams here with another episode of Street Level Apologetics TV. where we give you street level apologetics in the city context. And so we are back with another discussion. We have a special guest. Actually, I'm doing the hosting today because I want to interview my main man, Vocab Malone, urban apologist extraordinaire, and our special guest from undisclosed area of the world, DNew.
Hey.
So we are here today. We're actually going to talk about, you see all these books on the table? They are talking about Egyptologists, and we're also going to talk about the Kemetic area of urban apologetics that maybe many people don't know about. This happens to be one of DNew's specialty. I believe you taught some classes on it at the Doctor for the Block, correct?
I did, yeah.
Tell the audience how you got into this particular apologetic or this subject.
Well, this is the story that I say, and I'm sticking with it. I got involved because another urban apologist by the name of Alfredo Valentin, who goes by the name of BK Apologist on YouTube, he brought some videos to my attention. So primarily it was a video with Young Pharaoh. I don't know if your audience is familiar with Young Pharaoh, but he is a social media influencer. Has a large audience, and he just said some things that particularly about Black women that I felt needed to be addressed. And so after I did that video, I said to myself, let me see what else this community believes. And so that's kind of what got my my attention onto the Kemetic community.
So Young Pharaoh basically brought out your inner Keisha, and you had to defend Black women from a Christian standpoint. I got it. You brought out your inner Keisha. Yeah, Keisha had to be defended. I got you. And just
so check this out, Mike. Young Pharaoh, sounds crazy, right?
Right.
This dude has multiple channels. All of them have high sub counts. Such a well-known social media influencer of like millennials, Gen Z. Mm-hmm. That he was invited to speak at CPAC, which is like Conservative Political Action Committee. It's like the young conservatives where they get together once a year.
Right.
He was invited to speak there. So imagine you would have like people from the Trump administration and then Young Pharaoh speaking on the same stage.
That didn't even fit. Did they invite him because it's the conservative part of him, or did they invite him because maybe there was some part of his message that kind of like tangled with their message, but they really didn't agree with it? Was it just like
I think that he has some positions they would consider conservative. Yeah. I forgot about what exactly it is.
I do too, but yes, he does say some have some sound bites and some talking points that would agree with their platform. But the thing is, whoever found him did not do their due diligence.
They didn't vet him enough.
Yes.
He got uninvited shortly after.
Yeah.
Wow.
He got quickly disinvited, and it was all over the news. So.
Yeah, you can find these stories, actually. What's his real name?
His
first name? I thought you knew it.
Yeah. I think it's Marshall, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Just two things. One, we can call y'all by Vocab Malone, not birth name. We could call you by DNew, not birth name. But because you disagree with this person, you can't have the respect to call them the name that they wish to be called by. Like the disrespect, you know what I mean? It's these little, as people say, microaggressions. And it's just, what? That's why microaggressions are so toxic, because, I didn't mean it. Oh, what are you talking about? So it's like deniability. And they're already doing it like so quickly. Side note, I am surprised that she was not mad at the host for being like, he brought out your inner Keisha. Like, what kind of weirdo stereotype are we trying to poke at right here?
Homeboy, like, and this ain't no, I don't know, dude. This is my first time seeing him in this video series, but homeboy rubbed me the wrong way. Like I don't know what his situation is, but his demo it rubbed me the wrong way, because your inner Keisha, and then I know we got that promo where he Vietnamese, like, bruh, go sit down somewhere, man. I know it's a Planet Fitness somewhere. You're right. I'm tripping. My bad.
Let's not go for the physical.
Right.
We're better than the name calling.
I'm tripping. I apologize.
You good. But he definitely needs to read a book. Or
She did mention a good brother though. Shout out to my man BK Apologist. That's my man. And I do remember when he did, bring her on to comment, on some video. So I remember I kind of now that I heard her say that, because I didn't even get that because I was so focused on the other stuff. I remember the genesis of this whole thing. So shout out to my man BK Apologist. But we can get back to it whenever you're ready.
I think because Asar said she taught where, I'm like, yeah, I'm interested to know that too. Like, where was you teaching, sis? Because you teaching some incorrect stuff.
Taken it.
And it was wild to see his name like in the mainstream news, and then the fact that he would go on stage with Trump administration officials speaking with young Republicans and stuff. And so, yeah, he got disinvited primarily for anti-Semitic statements.
Yeah.
So the Kemetic world, the Egyptologist world seems to be like, if you're not paying attention to it, it could present different arguments that you might say, oh, I might agree with that point. Kind of like how young Pharaoh may have said something like, I agree with that. But then like, as they talk and they continue to go on in their thought process, then it becomes really clear that I don't agree with nothing they're saying. Right?
Oh yeah.
And is that similar to how, I don't want to say Hebrew Israelism, but there's like, if you listen to like one sentence and you're like, oh yeah, Moses was an Old Testament prophet. And you're like, yeah. And then they're like, but he had 3 legs and an afro and dreadlocks. And you're like, well, hold on. You were good at first. Is that kind of how it is with Egyptology? Or is like all of their thought process just so far off to where, like, how do they reel in people to believe what they believe?
I would say at first glance, some appear quite intellectual and erudite.
Yeah. Another good example of what you just said is we also did another show concerning an individual, Frank James, who was the Brooklyn subway shooter. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was a story I think was in May, something like that. And it turns out that once we went to his YouTube channel and just listened to a few of his videos, he had some conscious community, Kemetic community talking points. Now, I'm not saying that, the Kemetic community, this is what they produce, but certainly some of their ideas can take people places. And so that's how far reaching this is. You can have people who are intelligent and, well-spoken, but you can, if you just get a few of the talking points and, kind of weaponize them a little bit, it can definitely have an impact on you and other people. So.
One of the main people seems like Frank James.
I'm sorry. So one of the things you said earlier is about the conflation. So it's a lot of different stuff going on here, but one, the false connection of so like Hebrew Israelites. No, not like Hebrew Israelites, because they be beefing with us too. So like we are very not the same. So to put those two together automatically puts in the mind of the audience something, again, false connection. You're saying Kemetic people and Egyptology. So Egyptology is an academic discipline. These people just do historical anthropological archaeological, like they do studies, write papers, they learn Sashmedu Nature, things like that, but they don't practice. They don't live as a Kemetic person. They just research because they think it's really groovy, like that's it. So that's not the same. That is the same as, I want to say, comparing astrology to astronomy. Right. Yeah, they both have to do with the stars, but they very much are different in approach and what they do and stuff like that. So it's just like, it doesn't make sense. And then they go on like in the promo and they say, well, the conscious community, well, Afrocentric people, well, like they just dump a bunch of different folks in there. Yeah. And it's so not accurate.
Yeah. That just didn't make sense to me at all. And I'm like, first of all, when you mention Kemetic practitioners or Kemetic people with Hebrew Israelites, I've never heard of a Kemetic person standing on the street corner approaching people of European descent and telling them that they the devil that the Pert M. Heru speaks of. like I've never heard of that. And so where is this comparison coming from?
Yeah.
Because last night they got a problem with us too, or with Kemetic people too. So it's like,
yeah.
Why? And then this subway shooter thing though, that really got me, because I was like, what, for real?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's just, so I just figured that was one of the things that I wanted to take a moment to kind of get into for people, because they are just kind of dumping them in and making poop stew over there. So when we're saying like someone is conscious or they're woke, like that is essentially like, if you want to say their critical thinking, their maturity about, you know, the world around them. It could be political, it could be based on racial stuff, it could be about a lot of different things. So it's just I don't want to say philosophy, but just like how one kind of is interpreting the world around them, being hungry for knowledge and things like that, whatever that might look like, because some people go in all kind of directions. Then you've got Afrocentric or even Pan-Africanist. That has more to do with like a political view, a nationalistic type of a view and stuff like that. Then we have like social or fraternal groups. So I put, well, I'm gonna go down the list. So I said Masons. I know, you know, for some people, they, you know, would put that in another category, but for all intensive purposes, it can be in more than one category, but I just put it with that one for now. Sacred Woman, the Kingsmen, started by Queen Afua and Baba Heru. And again, I said, I'm not trying to disrespect my elders. I'm not trying to disrespect, you know, anybody. I'm just speaking in general. But if anyone knows Queen Afua's program, she is very inclusive of multiple different faiths. She's very upfront about that. So yes, she has Kemetic overtones, because when she wrote the book, you know, she was with Baba Heru, because they're not together. They haven't been together in years. And later on, DNew says, oh, and more than one video even, that, oh yeah, the husband and wife and that they're together. And so that is super, like, you only like, and these are authorities, but okay. So yeah, Sacred Woman, Kingsman, and then I say the Moors, but they're also in two sections, simply because depending on the person who's, you know, part of the group, they may go one way or the other way, or kind of both in a certain direction. And then you have like spiritual or ethically religious, if you will, depends on what the group is, groups. So that would be the 5%ers, the Hebrew Israelites, the Kemetic people, Moors, New Age. They mentioned Nation of Islam. Like all of those people are based on some sort of religiosity or spiritual text. Like each of those have spiritual texts that they could point to as to, this is how we should be living. This is how we look at the world. This is how creation came about. So you can't say they're all the same thing. Now, can a person be Kemetic, Afrocentric, woke, and a Mason? Yeah, they can, but that doesn't mean every Kemetic person is those things. And just because a person is conscious doesn't make them automatically Kemetic. So you really can't go back and forth.
Real quick, Wayne. I just, can you repeat that last statement one time for me? Because I just, for some reason, people don't seem to get that. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know what it is, because if I said a Mormon was a Christian, I like nobody, no Christian I know would agree with that statement. If I said a 7-day Adventist was a Christian, no Christian I know would agree with that. Jehovah's Witness, the list goes on. But for some reason, the Kemetic community and the conscious community are part and parcel to each other. So can you go just build on that for a little bit?
I just need you to understand I'm very distracted by the chat. But I'll get back to it.
Unless I put it up, don't worry about it.
Okay, I ain't gonna worry about it right now. So in general, people have multiple intersections of their life. So I am a teacher, I am a daughter, I am a friend, I am an auntie, I am all of these things. So, but it doesn't mean just because I'm a daughter, I'm automatically going to be an auntie. Just because just because you're one label doesn't make you automatically other labels. So just because I'm a teacher doesn't mean I'm also going to be a woman. I could be I'm not, but but it's this idea that for some reason, when it comes to the conscious community, the Kemetic community, or anything like that, it's kind of like this one huge soup bucket and you're all of it at once. And that's just misleading. It's so incorrect. And it's very dismissive of our respective cultures, of our respective languages, of our respective beliefs, of us as human beings in general. Like, as much as we can disagree, we're still human beings worthy of respect. Like, and again, one's own tradition says, and talks about, being inclusive and caring for all different kinds of people and this, that, and the third. So the fact that it's just like you want to condemn, complain, and criticize other people, but yet where is the understanding? Where are you hanging out with the lepers? Where are you hanging out with the prostitutes? Where are you hanging out with understanding and respect? You're not. You saying stuff on the internet to get some clicks. Like, that's it. So it's very short-sighted. And a lot of times we just, oh yeah, I'm like, again, in those Facebook groups, how many people call themselves Kemetic? And it's just like, well, when was the last time that you did prayer? When was the last time you poured libation for your ancestors? When was the last time you read something that wasn't an internet meme? But again, because people are, sensational on the internet and have some people who know very little following them, it's the blind leading the blind. And now here is this person exalted representing a group of people that they know nothing or very little about. So it's just like, and again, because a lot of the research that, the apologists are doing or have done to this point, it's based on these internet groups or, stuff like that. And I could tell, like, some of the things that DNew is saying, like, she has talked to some people, but most of it is still not accurate. So, yeah. So can I, I'm gonna let it play. I'm gonna Google.
Listen to was someone named Hassan Campbell. And I don't know if Hassan Campbell would really be able to be considered Kemetic from what I was able to tell, but definitely within the conscious community, he would be fit under that large umbrella. So conscious community, would be like the Kemets or the Egyptologists are part of it. Sometimes people even include the Hebrew Israelites under that spectrum of conscious community, and Afrocentric or Black atheists would be included in there. People trying to do what they view as like more traditional, proper, ethnically proper religion, say from the west coast of Africa or something like that, African spiritual forms, they might sometimes say, they would kind of fit under that. And then there's like a variety of people. And then within the Kemets, they definitely don't all agree with each other. It's interesting to see.
Every religion, there's a distinction in every religion.
It's highly to the.
Did you want me to pause it?
Yeah. Do you have another window open? Or
I got nosy. Let me close my things. Because I
No,
sure
no, no.
looking at
It just had an echo, so I thought it might have been playing on another.
Oh no.
Okay. Yeah, no, we good then.
Okay.
Person to the man more so than a lot of other like belief systems. It's almost like, well, they don't use the term guru, but it's almost like, here's my Kemetic guru, here's my Kemetic guru, but then they'll kind of take bits and pieces as far as the people who follow or listen. But yeah, they kind of all blend together, and they'll be on platforms like House of Consciousness or places like this. And some of these platforms online get pretty big, and you don't realize how big it is until you stumble upon it and see all these subs.
So let's walk it back. We started out with introduction, how you got into it, and we started about kind of an overall viewpoint. Then we got on Young Pharaoh, right, and how they kind of just totally dropped the ball, and they was about to invite the guy on there who was probably going to mess up their whole platform. Trump probably got arrested for this young black guy on here with dreads when they got him all messed up. Let's walk it back. Like, what's the origin? I mean, you hear Egyptologist, and you think just from the name that it's a very old thought process, because you would hear that Kemetic, African, you hear these things and this seems ancient. What's the actual origin, and what are like the foundational points of what this group of people believe?
Well, let me say this first. Let me just kind of go a little bit more introductory. So Kemet is what ancient Egypt is called. So we call the landmass that we call Egypt today was once called Kemet. And so Kemet equals ancient Egypt. Okay. And so, you know, if you speak to someone in the Kemetic community today, which the Kemetic community is comprised of individuals, very broadly speaking, it's comprised of individuals who are of the thought that people of African descent need to return or rediscover their African
Like their
spiritual roots. Yeah.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
So if what percentage would you think of the, I don't know, whatever community it is, what percentage would you say, you know, finishing with where you're at, would you say that the Kemetic community kind of involves? Like if there were 10 black people, right, and just say 3 are Christian, you know, 2 are Muslim, like what out of 10 people, how many people do you think could fall under the Kemetic type doctrine, if you want to say that?
I think that, I don't know if you would answer this differently, but I mean, you know, within the conscious community, which is what we're talking about, as Vocab said a few moments ago, there's different groups. In addition to the groups that he just said, there's also Nation of Islam. Right. There's 5 percenters. There's Moorish Science Temple. And so when you think about all of these groups, to get a percentage, I would venture to say, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 just Kemeticism. What would you say?
Out of 10, like what are you saying? Just kind of hard to gauge, or
2, 3, 4.
It's hard to gauge. I don't know.
But it's enough to pay attention to it. It's not like this guy out here is like, hey, I am a Vietnamese Hebrew Israelite Catholic. Like it's probably 1 out of 5. These are like, it's enough to put a lot of attention into it, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's these ideas have and are impacting thousands of people. You know, there's a ton of people of African descent who have left Christianity, who have left the Black church, who have.
And that's why they're sitting here arguing with us. Because people are leaving the church, and rather than looking at themselves and looking at the mirror and looking how they treat people and looking at the various issues and the polarizing, you know, pushing people out because of, you know, what's going on, they want to blame, because thousands of people, they got reeled in by Kemet. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some people who are profiting and taking advantage of people who just don't know, but are looking and searching. I've talked about some of them previously on other shows. Yeah, it's a thing. But just like it's a thing within Christianity too. Like, you know, anybody, I don't even want to say anybody, but anybody who is charismatic for the most part can take a little bit of information, and if they string it together correctly, they can get people to be like, oh yeah, you're right. Oh, this, oh, that. So, but that's manipulation. That's not a Kemetic thing. That's not a Christian thing. That's a human thing. That is a human thing. For thousands of years, for millennia, for as long as people have been people, we manipulate to get things that we want. And if you want material resource, if you want respect, if you want to make a name for yourself, it doesn't matter, because again, oh, let me not say that. Ooh. Oh, I need to tread lightly with this one. Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble, y'all. I'm gonna need y'all to donate to me, because I'm gonna be in serious trouble. But
Speaking of, check your cash out real quick.
Like just in general, Queen Afua, a lot of people kind of come in to the Kemetic legacy through her. Oh, feeling myself. Thank you, y'all. But a lot of people come or first experience, and especially now that she's like on the red table and she's like, schmoozing it up over in Hollywood, and, her program is now online, and, people have a little more access to it. But again, her whole program is about sisterhood and healing the divine, feminine, if you will. And depending on what group you end up in, whoever, kind of ends up leading you through this process, you can have a Rasta woman leading you through. You can have a New Age person leading you through. You can have an atheist leading you through. So just because she wrote the book and, it has certain stuff in it, the organization itself is not Kemetic. Like it isn't. It's a nice primer, if that's what you want to call it, or a feeder group or something like that. But again, just because it has a lot of Kemetic overtones, there are people who are in there that are Muslim. There are people in there who are Christian. There are people who practice all different kinds of things. And when they're uncomfortable with some of the Kemetic stuff, they're told you don't have to do this. So it is not a Kemetic organization as big as it is.
So in essence, Queen Afua probably shouldn't have been mentioned in a video that's speaking on Kemetic spirituality.
Now, again, I've spoken to Queen before, and again, I have a lot of respect for my elder, but I've never sat and had the conversation of like, well, what exactly are your spiritual beliefs? Like she doesn't really talk about it, but I get it. She's a businesswoman, and her overall goal is to help women. So it makes sense that she's not gonna say, but I don't think so.
Because she's not teaching it. So yeah, if she's not teaching it, why would you mention her? Like that's what I didn't understand.
Because again, a lot of people see the regalia and think that means Kemetic. They think wearing an Ankh makes them Kemetic. Like, let me tell you how I went one time to was Abyssinian Baptist Church with my mother, like long time ago. And the minister there was wearing an Ankh earring. And I'm like, oh, I gotta be like, what's that? Acting all like I don't know. And he was like, oh, it's just an ancient symbol that means life. And I'm like, this is an actual pastor. A pastor wearing it. So it's just like, oh man. Like, again, because we're not a codified unit, people are able to take elements and do what they want, and it reflects on us.
At least he knew what it meant, though.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people just refuse to even accept that it is what it is.
Yeah, it was just interesting, but it is just, whew, Lord. So I'm gonna go ahead and just press play
now. Just left Jesus for ideas like this. It's absolutely prevalent and needs to be addressed.
And just to be clear, or just ask, so I know that we're talking about Africans, Egypt, Kemetic. This is mainly an African American problem. Like they don't have like a sect of like South African Kemetics or something like that are like a big part of it, or is this like just a black thing? Or
so
Well, I don't know about a lot of Africans and from in Africa being part of it, but isn't like Kemetic orthodoxy like kind of like white folks?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
kind of like new agey type of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of white Kemeticism. That's not really what we're talking about, but, that's a thing.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry. I swear I'm gonna let it play longer next time. So first of all, because we're all about the evangelism, I'm not gonna actually say the full how I wish I could answer this, but we international, baby. So yeah, we in Africa, yeah, we in Europe, yeah, we in South America, yeah, we in the Caribbean, we in the Americas, we out there. We may not be in Japan or Asia. Maybe we'll work on it. But yeah, we out here. Like we got numbers. So I just thought that was interesting. Like, but wait, y'all supposed to be the experts. How you don't know this? But okay, whatever. It's okay with me.
But that's the thing. I don't think they know people like you exist. I really don't.
That's weird. But it's okay. You know, I'm just a regular person. That's okay. They don't have to know me. The other part that they were talking about, the what was it? Kemetic orthodoxy. What's amazing is they have a huge following in Arizona. How does he not know anything about them? What the hell? What? like that to me was hilarious. But it's just, and I'm gonna say some of the stuff and let it play. The way they even talk about the Kemetic orthodoxy as though it's like something to not pay attention to is wild to me. And I understand why, because of they're directing their energy at a certain population. So okay, fine.
And I was gonna say, I don't know if I was the first person to mention it to Vocab, but I know I mentioned it to him before. So I didn't realize they had a large following in his area. I just knew about like Chicago. So that's again, you know, you would think that it'll be a little more information out there with regards to
No, the way they're very smart, the way they do things. And their numbers, like of people who actually practice, follow, and do but they're not concerned about them. They're only concerned about us.
Right.
Like I'm like, that has a certain overtone. That's very interesting. Like it's so you're not concerned about Kemetic people, you're concerned about certain Kemetic people. Say no more, I got you. I see what you're trying to do. But when it comes to Kemetic orthodoxy, I would compare them. So like with Christianity, okay, yeah, you have Pentecostals and Baptists, like you have all these denominations, but then you have Catholicism. But then even Catholicism has the Greek Orthodox Church. They have the Eastern Orthodox Church. So you do have other orthodoxies, but they're not considered, you know what I mean? But it's not like they're not there. It's not like they don't have incredibly similar or overlapping beliefs.
Right.
So it's just very interesting that they choose to ignore, and not for nothing, the Kemetic orthodoxy people are super conservative. So if you mad at the internet people, you don't want no sauce with them, because they know their stuff back and front. They read, they study.
I remember seeing a post
right
where the Nasut was like, hey, we stand behind our African American brothers and sisters, because let us not forget these netters that we honor are African deities. I was like, damn, like that tripped me out. I was like, wow, like I was okay. That's all I could say. It was like, okay.
Yeah, that's why it's like, it's very interesting, because I understand the aversion for, you know, European and because of history and this, that, and the third. But it's like when you read some of her stuff, it's like, oh, and again, like you said, she's always giving reverence to Africa, and we need to do it the right way to be respectful and this, that, and the like. She takes it very seriously. Like, she could read and write in Sashmedu. Like, she goes there, like, oh my gosh. Like, she does so much work. And they're just, oh, it don't matter. And they're international too. Like, they are very international. Like, I would even say maybe more so than our groups are. So I'm just saying, they could sleep on them if they want to. All right, I'm like, oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm like, I'm going on the wrong tab. Play.
It's the caveat when we talk about these things is we are talking about it from an urban apologetic standpoint. And so, yeah, there is there's like another
sect of it, but it's probably so minute that the main part of it is probably
Kemetic orthodoxy is very well known as well, and it's prevalent, but it's not. It includes people of European descent, right? Something that's totally different from what we're talking about today. So
here, I read one thing about Kemetic orthodoxy, which is not what we're talking about. It helps people to understand. There's, the people of, especially in the West, have been fascinated with Egypt for a long time.
Right.
We got a book about it. That bottom one, Egyptomania, by Fritz, I think is how you say the author's name.
Show the book right here.
That shows, like, essentially the obsession with Egypt. So this is from page 104 of Profane Egyptologist. Kemetic orthodoxy was established under the leadership of Tamara el Saouda, the current Nisut, often translated as authority. It began with a meditative trance in 1988, which Saouda had undertaken as part of her initiation as a Wiccan priestess. Saouda claims to have felt contacted by ancient Egyptian deities and charged to revive Kemet's long-forgotten ways and bring them to a new generation of the faithful, helping to return the love and wisdom of Ma'at to a modern world sorely in need of it. She subsequently left the Wiccan faith. I'm sorry. She apostatized from Wicca.
Right.
And began meeting with a small group of college friends for study and worship. According to the webpage dedicated to the Nisut, I'm probably not pronouncing everything right, sorry. The appeal of Egypt was long-standing for Saouda. Here's the quote, and I'll end here. Ancient Egypt called to her imagination, to her strong sense of history and tradition, and finally to her innermost heart. End quote. It is of note that this phrasing of calling and the phenomena of contact, invited or no, are recurrent themes when studying Kemeticism, locating the religion within a framework of wider religious terminology. And before this book, the only kind of Kemeticism, as far as in the modern era, that had been documented in an academic setting, according to this book, was Kemetic orthodoxy. Now, this book gets into some of the other branches. So it's not just some folks that are fascinated with Egypt. There's a lot of people. Some of their reasonings are kind of different, though, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And ancient Egypt is such a vast and interesting civilization, right? It's old, 3,000 BC is what we're talking about. And so, people who have a fascination with history and, just with civilizations, ancient civilizations in general, are really attracted to Egypt, ancient Egypt.
So going back to the previous question, so we can kind of update the audience, it's an old religion, or it's an old thought process. It goes all the way back to, like you say, 3000 BC. What are some of the foundations that a Kemetic person would hang their hats on now? Going from, I know pretty much every religion, every doctrine has morphed over the years, but what are some of their core beliefs, and how would you, I guess you would say, identify that a person's actually really involved in Egyptology, and other than dressing like Pharaoh, other than that, something like that, or, they don't dress like Pharaoh, I'm just making it up. But how would you identify?
Well, wait, who doesn't dress like Pharaoh? Some of these guys do dress like Pharaoh.
Do they? I was making a joke.
Yeah,
I guess I was right.
Some of them, some have claimed, although I've heard they've walked back from the claim, some practitioners have even claimed to be reincarnated pharaohs.
Wow. And from reading the first book, this kind of started. Did this start with like a vision, like some of these other false religions? And somebody just had this was just a bunch of teachings that they kind of held as tradition for thousands of years, and it's just morphed into different doctrines like that.
Would you agree that the side of Kemeticism that's not Kemetic Orthodoxy seemed to have a revival under a broader revival of what you might call Afrocentrism. And here's Afrocentrism, and Kemet comes along with it sometimes.
Yeah, really, you can't really talk about Kemeticism, the Kemeticism that we're talking about right now, without talking about what happened to Black people, the transatlantic slave trade, people being kidnapped from their homeland and brought to, in the travesty, the devastation, all of what Black people experienced, and which culminated in the loss of identity and dignity. You can't talk about this without referring to that, because that is what this is kind of in response to, a rejection of Christianity, because these people see colonization as a result of European Christianity proper, and so really the thing that drives Kemeticism, in my estimation, in dealing with these groups and being in faith in groups and hearing the conversations, the thing that drives this group is really this anti-Christian sentiment, right? Just this hatred of Christianity and what it represents to them and as a people, right? The thought is that Black people have no business being Christians. Yeah.
Whereas Kemeticism is seen as what sometimes scholars call ATR, an African traditional or traditionalist religion. So it's an African spirituality. And from what I've seen, most sane Kemetic practitioners won't necessarily claim to have like some kind of direct kinship with Egypt or Egyptians. Usually they'll understand that's not the providence for most folks, but they'll say, well, it's still an African, traditional religion. It's from the continent, it's an African spiritual form. And so that's proper, or more proper to do this. But real quick, like here's a little book, We Can't Go Home Again, an argument about Afrocentrism, Clarence Walker. These are not Christian authors to my understanding. And this book is against it. This little book is an intervention in the debates about Afrocentrism. It offers a critique of the focus of an Afrocentric discourse on Egypt called Kemet, both as a Black civilization as the progenitor of Western civilization. In making this argument, I readily acknowledge that Afrocentrism is a popular form of Black cultural nationalism. And then here's how a Afrocentric The Afrocentrist seeks to uncover and use codes, paradigms, symbols, motifs, myths, and circles of discussion that reinforce the centrality of African ideas and values as a valid frame of reference for acquiring and examining data. Such a method appears to go beyond Western history in order to revalorize the African place in the interpretation of Africans, continental and diasporan, end quote. And the unifying factor is they hate or detest Christianity.
Beloved, if that's not a stretch,
Hey.
how did you, what? I can't. So I thought I looked up that author before, because he's like, I don't think he's Christian, but just because he's not, doesn't make him Kemetic either.
Exactly.
And so that.
What got me is, what about the Christians who consider themselves Afrocentric?
Thank you.
I just like that whole thing was kind of, to me, because I know plenty of Christians who are Afrocentric. They talk about they talk about reconnecting with their African heritage from a Christian perspective. So this is not something that's exclusively Kemetic. So I don't know. Go ahead, sis.
No, it's cool. We on the same wavelength. So I'm going back for 2 seconds, because I was like, ooh, there were some points. So the fact that they're talking about Nasutsuria, the fact that they would mock her for her experience, but y'all can fall out on the floor and be caught with the Holy Ghost. Y'all can have revelations and prophesize and speak in tongues. But when we do it, oh, ha, 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 ki, that's so silly. Stop being disrespectful. Like, y'all got the same elements. And respectfully, they're African elements. So please don't do that. Like, please, let's not do that. Next. How are you going to be the expert and then you don't even have your dates right? Like, how? Like, we could talk about, like, oh, yeah, 3000 BCE is when it started. And if we want to talk about, like, you know, certain elements that, yeah, some scholars do say 3000 BCE. But if we wanted to talk about pre-dynastic Kemet, meaning when the foundations were laid, that is 6000 BCE. It only was, you know, kind of all brought together with 3000. So, I mean,
I thought she was about to say it was a 3,000 year civilization. And then when she said, I was like, oh, okay.
No, even when I hear some people, they usually say around was like 42 or something like that. So not even 3000. That's why I'm like, where are you getting that from? But okay, whatever, you know,
right.
Whatever.
Do you need to share again?
I do.
I'm gonna step away for a second, but keep going. We can still let it play. Because even when you stop it, you can still rock out till I get back.
Oh, okay.
I won't be long.
Okay. I'm like, I hope this is gonna work, y'all. Bear with me. So the other thing I was gonna say is, the host said, did it start from a vision like some of these other false religions?
Yeah.
Like, damn, you're not even trying to hide your bias behind question. Like, you literally are. And then there was something that Vocab Malone said. He was like, well, wouldn't you think? And I'm like, if we were in a courtroom, they would shut you down. Like, you're leading. You're not even being objective or like, again, why we can't have certain conversations, because you want to talk to people any old way. And no. Then on top of that, it's like the energy was trying to discredit or invalidate because there's no, you know, straight line. And it's interesting because it's like, okay, if you look at early Christian history, it wasn't just a straight line. It was fractured. Some stuff was going on over here. Some stuff was going on over there. Some stuff was codified over here. It took time and a lot of wars and a lot of fighting before it all kind of started coming together. But again, and that's normal for most religions in general, or most spiritual systems. That's generally the norm. It takes a while. Like, you don't wake up one day and be like, hello, everybody, here's the revelation. These are the divine, and here we go. It takes time. So if we're reconstructing, but now we're being criticized while we're still in motion and process. Right. So it's just like, and again, because we have a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm part of that community, that aren't really part of the community. Now it's further exacerbating, like, you know, what it is we're trying to do. But again, I don't want to say too much because the evangelical agenda will take my words, spin them around, and then call us names and carry on nonsense. So I'm trying to answer certain things, but so much because I know it's going to be used to weaponize against other people of, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. If y'all want to attack the folks who are not, or I call them Aunu, and that's in the Faulkner Dictionary as well as the Vigus Dictionary. Like, so it's an actual Seshmedu Necha word, and it means like to plunder, to steal, and stuff like that. So those people who are out here and as contemporary society calls them hoteps, they're Aunu, AWNW, Aunu. They're the ones who are out here stealing and making a profit and making the rest of us suffer and making us look crazy. Like, they are not us. We are not the same. We're not built the same ever.
In other words, what the queen is saying is this ain't that and that ain't this.
Exactly. So Kemeticism revolves around hating Christianity and Afrocentrism. Again, if you want to just overgeneralize, that's your business. However, they are not mutually exclusive. A person can be Afrocentric, a person can be Kemetic, a person can be Afrocentric without being Kemetic, and a person can be Kemetic without being exclusively Afrocentric. So we're conflating again, like that's really what it is. So again, since we're talking about the Aunu, the young pharaohs, the polites, all these other people, the people who be on Sonetta channel and stuff like that, like that's their goal, to cause controversy so they could come on again and make some money. So they're going to say these things. They're going to say things to piss people off, make them angry so that they can keep a check. So, and they speak a lot to the American condition, but my citizenship, my nationality is not exclusive to my morals, beliefs, spiritual system, or anything like that. So just like a Christian person does not have to be Middle Eastern, that a Muslim person doesn't have to be Middle Eastern, a Jew doesn't have to be Middle Eastern. They can be whatever race, they can be, from wherever. And they can have both their, like, you could be proud to be an American and proud to be a Christian, but not all Christian. It's the same thing. So I don't know where you're getting lost with that, but it's really not that hard.
Real quick, because you just spoke on something that, and it made me think of something that I hear from some Christians, and I've had back and forths about this particular thing, where it said, or it's asked, why would you skip over West African spiritual traditions? And it always puzzled me because it's coming from a Christian brother or sister, and it's like, you a Christian. This started in this didn't start in Africa. As much as Africa may have contributed to it, it didn't start in Africa. So why you sweating somebody who practice in an African spiritual tradition that's born in a diaspora? Why you sweating them about what African tradition they practice in or interested in, adhering to, etc.? And you practice something that started outside of Africa. And then it got to get more nuanced. Well, that wasn't a global tradition that Christianity is. Oh, okay, but that don't really deal with the issue. Yeah, like, so what do you say to that particular critique, if you will, why do you skip over West Africa? Because I think that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, in terms of offering a critique.
I had like so many thoughts, and now I'm here and I'm a little bit blank. So I'm gonna try to jog my memory. So just so I'm correct, you're saying that the people are saying to you, why skip over West Africa?
Yeah, why would you skip over?
Oh, yeah, I understood that backwards. And I'm just like, what? Oh, okay. So, honestly speaking, I know a lot of people because, again, and I'm saying this very carefully because I don't want it to fall into evangelical hands and be twisted, because it will. But we think differently. We address things differently. So I'm going to preface it with that you are permitted to have more than one way. You can make potatoes by boiling them, baking them, mashing them, scalloping them, but they're still potatoes. Ancient Kemet to you, it's pretty much the same thing. West African, it's pretty much very similar. Now, I'm not well versed in like Ifa and all the like different West African traditions. I am very much a novice in that, so I'm not going to sit here and claim like I could speak on that real for real. But there are a lot of commonalities, and if a person decided I want to honor my bloodline West African tradition, but spiritually I feel connected to Kemet, they can do so because there is no one way. Period. But again, that's a Christian thing, that there's this one way, there's this one truth, and it has to look like this. And if it doesn't look like this, you're wrong and you're going to hell. Or you're wrong and you need to be saved. And now it is my mission to try to save you. if you don't get out of my face, leave me alone. Like go save yourself, because I'm pretty sure you got problems of your own. Save yourself. Learn how about that. Like all the bad self-esteem and depression and people going and shooting up places, and y'all worried about me.
And I think I think you know this brother personally.
Uh-oh.
I only know of this king, you know, in reference to what I've seen and read with regards to his work. But the King Sanjeti, he's initiated in Kemetic spirituality and the Ifa tradition. Mm-hmm. So this is like two things can be, you know, adhered to at the same time. And in African, from an African perspective, especially from as an individual, again, born in a diaspora with all of these different people making up who we are. And so I always think that that's to me, it's a dumb question, but I wanted to see what your perspective was on it. And I just got to play this in honor of the Queen real quick, because I think this show been one of my better shows. So y'all bear with me.
You know I'm surgical with this bitch, Jake. How you want to?
So, you know, but let me step away. Do you want to share the screen before I do?
Well, it's still there. I didn't stop.
Okay.
Or does it do it now? Is it there now? Because now I'm not looking at it.
Yep, it's up.
All right, so I'm gonna leave it there, but I'm gonna make this final point. And it's this idea of using blanket terms, and again, interchangeably using, Hoteppers are not Kemites. Hell no. If hell existed, no. Just no, they are not. They are, honestly, people who identify as Hoteppers are a really weird mix of like super ultra conservative, like American values with sprinkles of Christian overtones, with a whole bunch of being mad at people, and they love guns. It's like red pill foundations. It's very odd. Like it's just odd. I will answer that in a moment. But what I was trying to say originally is this idea of like, oh well, they're polytheistic. They have many gods, and it's just like, yeah. I mean, technically, Kemetic people would be referred to or put in that bucket of polytheistic. But specifically, we practice monolarity, which by definition is the belief in the existence of many, but with the consistent worship of one specific deity. Or some people who are, actual practicing Kemetic people practice henotheism, which is the worship of a single supreme, but it doesn't deny anybody else. And depending on kind of what you're doing as a practitioner, that ebb and flow will be there, but it's not wrong. It's not seen as disrespectful to kind of, talk to other Neteru or other deities, simply because overall they're all, like I said before, I am Menyet, but I am Menyet the teacher, I am Menyet the daughter, I am Menyet the person on this show today. I am, I have many different expressions of myself, and the Neteru are essentially different personifications of this one essence. So there's that. So I saw, where was it? Okay, so yes, why go straight to Egypt and bypass West African spirituality? So 1, because of history. 2, Kemet is familiar. Kemet is taught in, at least here in my state, ancient history is taught, if I'm not mistaken, either between 6th or 7th grade. And, we fall in love with the mythology, and then it's in the movies. And, so it's kind of like we already have a connection to it. And if we look at the media and outside, like, and especially if we're coming from a Christian background, we hear voodoo and it's like, oh, that's horrible. You're a witch. You're bad. You're this, you're that. So it's an extreme aversion to West African spirituality. But again, that's a societal thing. But again, over time, at least, and I can only speak about my experiences and the people that I've observed, a lot of people get to Kemet first because, again, it's familiar, it's kind of comfortable. Just like they said in the video, like not everything they said in the video is wrong. Most of it is, but some parts are correct. And the part of Egyptomania, like that's a thing worldwide. Like you could go to Russia and see a Kemetic exhibit. You can go in South America, you can go wherever. And it, you know, it's easily accessible. The books, like, especially if you read Budge, it's like super cheap, super, like, you know, people can, it's tangible. Whereas West African spirituality, trying to find a book, like especially before Amazon days, before YouTube days and things like that, you know, people, you had to know somebody. So, you know, it's more like if you know somebody, you're good, but if not, you're just, you know what I mean? So, and then I do know some people who they originally gravitated to Kemet and then they ended up going in another direction, and that's okay. They, you know, it's their life. They can do what they want to do. It's, you know, it's not for everybody, just like Islam and Buddhism and Hinduism and Shintoism or Sinnoism, sorry, and Confucianism. Like, it's not for everyone, and that's okay. So I'm gonna push play and stop talking. And I hope that answered the question.
Now we got to bring the elephant in the room. Talked about the major S word, you know, not that other word, but the word slavery, right? And so I actually watched a documentary on slavery on YouTube. It's about 13 minutes long. It's basically like, you know, 10 facts you didn't know about slavery, right? And there's some astonishing claims that are made about actually how the transatlantic slave trade actually happened, like from an objective viewpoint. It was made by a black group, so it wasn't made by like the colonizers or, you know, the evil white man. And they gave some really interesting facts about it. And if you were to look at the whole practice of slavery from like an objective standpoint, you would get a different picture than what you would just say, let's just say an American version of slavery is. Not that it was better or worse, but, you know, the video made it clear to say, hey, chattel slavery is bad, but it didn't start when they crossed the water. It actually started in Africa with other Africans trapping other Africans and then trading them off. Is their viewpoint of slavery just evil European people came and they did it, like we had no part in it? Can they admit that there was slavery existing there and take blame for it or take part for that evil? Or is it just like, it happened to us, we had nothing to do with it, we had no, because when I was watching that video, right, we'll put the link in the screen at the bottom so you can go watch it yourself. It didn't minimize Americans' role in slavery, but it did open up another discussion to say, hey, this group of tribe went 500 miles inland and brought slaves 500 miles to the coast. So yeah, we can talk about slavery, but do they have an objective viewpoint of slavery, or it's just Christians did it, we hate Christians, the white man's evil, and you know, how is their historical acumen? Like, are they objective, or it's just
their starting point isn't from what happened on the landmass, it's what happened to them.
It's after the boat.
Yeah. And again, secondary to Afrocentrism, the Europeans and colonization, again, is just really representative of Christianity to them. So colonization is not something most cultures are happy with. I guess I can say it that way. But you can even see it in their memes in when you look into their beliefs. You can see the same thing in their memes, like this idea that Christianity was started with colonization, that Africa didn't know about Christianity until colonization happened. This idea that Christianity was started at the Council of Nicaea by Europeans, you know, and so it's really just, again, just a response to Christianity and to European colonization and Europeans to some extent.
I saw you hanging your head. I saw you over there.
See. So anybody that didn't watch me for any amount of time on this platform know that, like what the brother with the weaves just said. Do they acknowledge Africa that what we did, like that irks my, like I got a headache right now listening to this bullshit, just to be frank, because again, I feel like Black people especially, Christians particularly, not all of them be washed. Shout out to you, my brother, because I know that don't include you and most of the brothers in the one. But the brother with the weave and brothers like and sisters like him who say this silly stuff about Africans selling Africans or enslaving Africans with no nuance on these different tribes, these different cultures, and how these people differentiated themselves from each other. It make me want to like pull his weave out, because the fact of the matter is, if we were talking about Europeans, he would say the difference between those people. He would say Rome, enslaved, Thrace, Gaul, etc. He would put respect on their name, but he don't have that respect for Africa. So he just want to say we and Africans sold Africans. That's dumb to me. I don't know if his weave too tight, or he just ignorant with it, or it's just an apologetic talking point at this point. But that, to me, that's just dumb. It's just dumb, because at some point, if you're gonna be about this shit, put some respect on these people's names. They didn't see themselves as the same people. So it wasn't an African selling African type of situation. Just like we put respect on everybody else's name, put some respect on their name. That's number one. So anytime we start there, it irks me, because now we don't put respect on Africans' names. We just want to throw out the term African sold Africans. Then we want to act like what happened in the antebellum South was called the peculiar institution for no reason. It was called the peculiar institution because it was a different kind of savagery than what anybody in the world had ever seen. Period. What them animals did to our ancestors was different than what those Africans who sold Africans did, and what every other enslaver in history did. And the fact that he don't want to speak on that irks me. So, brother, take that weave out and pick up a goddamn book or something. That shit. I go ahead, sis.
I thought you was about to drop a bomb for yourself.
No, I don't drop bombs for myself. I got an ego, but it ain't that big.
So I ain't about to talk about no weaves or nothing, but just from listening to him and his line of questioning, one, you could tell he wasn't prepared. He's definitely thinking of random questions off the top of his head, and it's like, oh, let me say this. Two, you could tell one's educational level, or he is specifically trying to incite a certain response. So that being said, I also think it's the former reason. I just don't think he has the knowledge in general. But, victim blaming is well known to just not be a good tactic. So we can all agree to that. Then you want to say, oh, well, it's the white people and this, that, and the third. Did your little YouTube university degree talk about the Arab slave trade and the establishment of that? And the gross, horrible slavery that came out of that, the precursor, how everything even started. And then on top of that, the whole idea of what's the word I'm looking for? where over time, because colonization and slavery were happening at the same time. So if you're going to tell me, look, I need you to go get me some people from 2 towns over, hell yeah, I'm gonna go in somebody's window, because it's either me or you. It's human survival. So why are we demonizing people that are in a human condition? Like depending on which society you're talking about and what time period you're talking about, the society was destabilized because the ruling class was fighting back and forth for who's going to run stuff. So yeah, it makes sense that outsiders would be able to slip in there, get influence, give guns, because why do you think they needed guns? Like, hello. And it's just like, again, clearly, sir, you have not been taught. Like, he is ignorant, and I don't mean ignorant like to talk down to him. I mean literally dictionary definition of he just don't know.
Yeah, he don't
know. And it's like,
you just made an excellent point. Again, this was survival. Like, I don't blame these ancestors for what they had to do to survive. It's unfortunate. Wish it didn't happen, but I'm also aware that if it didn't happen, I probably wouldn't be here having this conversation right now. So, but I don't blame them for what happened, because if I have machetes and spears and the European has given the next city or country over guns, and in order for me to catch up to their technology, I have to get in the same game that they in, then I got to get in the game or I'm going to be the game. That's all it is to it. I'm going to be the people who are being put on those ships and sent off to those dungeons. That's what it was. It wasn't it wasn't a choice. It was like, this is what it was. It was play the game or become the assets in the game. Point blank, period.
Yeah.
Like, and that's it. And the fact that we don't examine that and we don't talk about that. And we want to put the onus on our ancestors as opposed to the animals who put our ancestors in that position to make that choice is stupid to me. That is just stupid. I ain't trying to find no fancy word for it. I ain't trying to let these people who don't do their own research, who don't want to be nuanced in how they approach these things, I'm not trying to let them off the hook for it. That shit is stupid to me.
I think just perhaps unpopular is this idea of, I understand it's survival, but at the end of the day, they're still responsible. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, let's say, like, people who commit murder or, commit crimes, and they go to jail and stuff like that because they have to be held responsible for what they did, even though they're remorseful, even though a lot of people who, I don't even want to say a lot, a decent amount of people who commit crimes, had their money been better, their home life been better, or something else, they wouldn't have done those things. But because of conditions, they still are responsible. So, I mean, the various people are responsible, and we should be able to say, like, yo, y'all did this. That was, we need to have a transparent conversation, because, and again, Americans to Africans, Africans to African Americans, like, we don't talk to each other. We talk at each other. We make fun of each other, but we don't actually have these kinds of conversations anyway. So he's going off of that. He's going off of the American socialized, and I'm not being funny, but for his age group, those are that generation's talking points. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why that video appealed to him, because it was, we were betrayed. They left us. They did this, they did that, blah, blah, blah. And again, you could tell one's maturity, because there was no more critical thinking. It was, I watched this video and it said this, and how come we don't hold them responsible? Like, okay, what are we, like 16?
Right.
Like, again, this is why I said moral development. Like, you can tell where he is, and that's why, again, I said, like, you don't need to engage if they're on a certain level. Understand where they're at, what they're trying to do, and light and love, peace to you, do your thing, and keep it pushing.
Yeah, that's facts. And y'all can see the sister is way more understanding of weave man than I am. And that's just generally, speaking on this particular topic, because I talk about this. I run into these conversations all the time. Byron know that for a fact. Me and him have had these conversations with other brothers, and not in the negative way or the negative energy that I'm having with him. Like this dude literally gave me a headache, but we've had these types of conversations so many times, and I'm still waiting for somebody to give it that nuanced approach that it deserved. And I haven't found one person yet.
Because it doesn't serve them. Their goal is to, because again, like what I was saying before, this whole idea of Christian supremacy is very much linked to oppressing other groups of people. So there's this book called Christian Supremacy, Reckoning with the Roots of Anti-Semitism and Racism. And it's written by a lady from Princeton, or a scholar from, I'm sorry, not Princeton. It's put out by Princeton Press. So like, smart people wrote that, okay? Because, people want to dissect of like, oh, you read that, you're less than. Like, all right, bro. Right. But the whole book in general is about how Christian supremacy was established because of the Jews in Europe. And then to keep them down, they came up with all these kind of like doctrines and traditions and things like that. But then when, colonization across the ocean happened, now it turned into being directed at native people. It was directed at, the Africans and then the mixed race peoples and, all of that. And then eventually the Jews, once they got over there again, and so on and so forth. So like, this is part of like, as much as they, that side, the urban apologist side wants to say, like, it doesn't have, like, why are y'all concentrating so much on slavery and things like that? It's because y'all are practicing the lineage of these things, and it's like you really are not looking in the mirror at yourself. Like, what was it, last year, 2 years ago, Native Americans in Canada and the United States were talking about how these I think it was Catholic, which is funny because it can be like, oh, well, that's Catholic, that's not Christian. Bro, stop it. Like, People's 2 is not purple like Catholics, like, but they were taking children and then essentially sexually assaulting or worse, killing, abusing, and this, that, and the third in the name of this. And it's not like you need to necessarily, but just like when the gentleman said, oh, well, they did this to us. Y'all ain't trying to own or be responsible for what you did. You pushing away saying, oh, I had nothing to do that, but I'm going to keep talking to you just like they was talking to you. And you need to listen to me or you're going to go to hell. Like, you're not even listening to the people. This is why, again, people are leaving the church. Because y'all don't listen, y'all don't take responsibility for how you treat people, how you don't listen to people, etc. But it's Kemetic people fault. We're dangerous. We have answers. We have tangible answers as to why things are going. We have things that you could do to try to help yourself and this, that, and the third. But it's our fault because we have answers that you refuse to provide. Because I'm quite sure Christianity has some sort of something. But because of politics and ego, y'all choose not to and then blame everybody else for it. So miss me with that. Like, and it's this whole thing on, and then I'm gonna press play again, that CBS has, and you can, it's an online documentary, and it's called An Uncivil War, The Evangelical Divide. So meanwhile, these people are attacking us and coming after us, but they're fighting amongst themselves. Like, most people leaving the church still consider themselves Christian influenced. Like, most of the people, if you look at the chart put out by like Pew Research and stuff like that, most of the people are just not going to church anymore because they're dissatisfied and alienated. So they're just not going. But they still generally have the Christian background and Christian beliefs. Outside religions or people who are converting, I think we're at 7%. 7%. Like, like the fact that they can't even just understand why they're in the boat they're in is wild to me, because they have dangerous ideas. They blow up subways.
Yeah, you know, and urban apologists, as they dub themselves, don't agree with evangelical Christians.
But
like
somehow
James,
they have really evangelical ways, though. That's interesting.
and yeah, James White, one of the leading evangelical apologists, he came out and said that the black church doesn't have sound doctrine. Now me having you know, as a person who personally feels like coming to a black church with my wife at 17, and I feel like I probably wouldn't be here had it not been for that situation. I got a lot of love for the people in that institution.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what is this dude talking about? And you know, some of the higher ups in the urban apologetics community took offense to that and took aim at him for those comments. But it kind of took me aback, because I was like, wow. Then one of his associates, who he's an associate pastor at his church, had a whole sermon against the quote unquote woke church. He cursing in this sermon and everything. Jeff Durbin, I think is his name. And it's like, wow, these white evangelicals don't outside. I don't know if Vocab would consider himself an evangelical, but my point being, you have these are all Christians, so you have this line of demarcation between, you know what I mean? So it's like,
I got caught on what you said. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I heard what you were saying, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, y'all, you know, that's heavy. That it's, you got that dividing line.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody would say the other person is not a Christian, though. But you still have that dividing line between these parties. So
yeah,
you know, it's a lot to kind of deal with within one's own house, so to speak.
Are you there? Oh, okay. I see you now. It blanked out for a second.
Yeah, it looked like you froze, and then my son was talking to me. So.
But no, it's just very interesting. Again, like Christians are having their own thing going on, and yet somehow we get dragged into it, which is just the overall doesn't make sense. When you said Vocab, you don't know if he considers himself a evangelical. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it ain't no snail. I mean, the man literally said, I don't think it's in this video. I think it's in the second one, which I already know we ain't watching today because it's already getting late. But it was in one of the promos. Like he literally opened up. I'm trying not to go all the way there, but it's like, bro, your source was jacked up. Like, how are you going to reference Exodus? Like, I cannot.
Yeah, that right. I was like, bruh, are you serious, man? Yeah, that blew me away. That blew me away.
And it's like, not only are you using Exodus, you're using Exodus without, again, the context of when it was written, Israel was in between being on Egypt side, or being on Kemet side, and being on, I think it was the Assyrians, or one of the ones with the A's. And essentially, you know, some people wanted to be on one team and one side, and the others wanted to be with the other because they were warring. So this text was written at that time, like, but you're not talking about the political atmosphere at the time. You're only using a religious text. So I could do whatever I want with my books. I could do that too, but that's not a real conversation. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think he takes the Exodus story literally, though. I think he thinks the Israelites were enslaved in ancient Kemet.
Oh, that's interesting.
Despite the fact that we know that ancient Kemet did, like, the type of slavery that they described, they didn't even have that type. You don't find that.
Ancient Kemet definitely has slavery. Like, I
did a whole presentation talking about the type of slavery they had. I'm specifically talking about what's described in the Exodus. I'm like, which one of these did the ancient Israelites, like, which one do they qualify for? Because I didn't quite see it. So in terms of their narrative, but
in general, it's very interesting. Like, the first thing I thought of when you were like, oh, well, I don't think he probably thinks it's literal, and that's beautiful. That is a beautiful thing. It is a story of triumph and overcoming and standing up for your beliefs, all that good stuff. That's groovy. But biblical scholars, they kind of say otherwise, and that's your own people. So what are we talking about? Like, you could not believe something all you want. You're just going to sound silly. Because the actual it's one thing to be well read, but it's not the same. Like, you're not a biblical scholar. Like, I was watching this one video and I didn't know this. So I see that question. It threw me off because now I'm thinking about it. But I saw this video that was talking about, like, as biblical academia says, like, you can't use King James Version of the Bible. And I didn't know that, because I'm just like, seriously? Because no, you can't. In a lot of, like, seminary, like, if once you get to a certain level, and Shaka Amos even says that, like, I can't remember the book. I have it downloaded on my e-reader. And but it literally has, like, all different kind of footnotes and stuff. Like, it is completely different than what regular Christians are reading. Okay, I made an overgeneralization. I stand corrected. All right, you right. So the question is, what is an evangelical? And then I will go back. Where am I going? I'm like, now where did I put the definition? Because I did make sure I wrote it down. Nope, that's not it. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm scrolling. Yeah, I definitely put it somewhere else. Where is it? I'll get back to that because I'll find it while the video is playing. The last thing, it was the victim blaming, conflating yet again. And the fact that what's her name again? DNew, she was just like, oh yeah, if you look at their message boards and their memes, I'm like, bro, like, that's gonna be your source. So you've sourced so far all these different groups and Facebook pages and stuff like that. And again, it goes back to that question earlier of, like, who were you teaching and where were you teaching with what? Because it just sounds super, super inaccurate. But yeah, I'm gonna let it play because I can't remember my other thing. Oh, we're almost done, yeah.
So just like pretty much the Bible's false to them. Everything in the Bible is based on African history or African origin, right?
They believe that Christianity is a copycat of ancient Egyptian religion or ancient Egyptian mythology.
So do they have, like, their own book that they read from? Do they have, like, their own traditions? Like, who are their deities? Like, if you're saying that this idea from the scriptures is taking from your ideas, then you would have to assume that you have parallel thought process. Like, this book is about one deity. This is about you. So who is their deity? Like, this have prophets, leaders, kings. So who do they parallel? They say we copied it. Well, what did what do they believe Christians copied it from? Like, is there like a big book of, hieroglyphics somewhere, or what's going on?
So let me just give a disclaimer. Whenever we talk about these things, we have to say some, not all, because it's so varying and vast in belief. So, and it depends on who you're speaking to when you ask this question. So, one thing that they believe is a copycat, if you will, is they believe that the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20 of the Bible is a copycat of what is called the 42 laws of Ma'at, which, the 42 laws of Ma'at is somewhat of a misnomer. They're not laws. They're negative confessions.
And who's Ma'at? Just so the crowd can know. Who is he or her or it? Or
Ma'at is a goddess. Okay. She is a she. Okay. And she is the goddess. Ma'at basically maintains order. So ancient Egyptian, the two opposing ideals, we'll say for now, are balance, order versus chaos.
Okay. So that's kind of their good and evil.
The goal is to maintain balance and order. And if that is not maintained and chaos results, then negative things happen, bad things happen, and so the goal is always to be in balance, order, reciprocity, righteousness, justice. This was represented by the goddess Ma'at, and so the 42 laws, or I'd rather say the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at. I don't know if we have them here.
You got them right in here?
Yeah. So
he calls them the 42 tenets in his pamphlet.
Mm-hmm. And so what happens is what people will do, what practitioners will do, is they will start their day with saying, I will not.
It's like a chant.
It's a confession. It's a confession.
You can be nice if you want. It's a chanting, right? They got some pigs over here in the corner with some chickens morning. Yeah, I know.
If I could read from this pamphlet.
Yeah. Let me ask one more question before you read from it. Was Ma'at a historical figure for them, like a real figure, a real goddess? Was there like an actual Ma'at, or is this somebody that's a tradition that they wrote about?
It depends on who you speak to. Some people believe them to be actual individuals who became deities.
I'm talking about Ma'at. Like they're saying the 42 tenets of Ma'at. Was she a real person?
Yes.
Or?
Some people believe that she was a real person who became a deity. Some people believe that Ma'at is simply a principle of nature. Some people believe that it's simply just a concept. Depends on who you're speaking to.
Who's the guy I debated who seemed to hold that the Egyptian deities were actually some kind of extraterrestrial beings, like aliens that we were Tahuti that we were aware of, and so we would see them as gods or divine, but they're actually extraterrestrials, like they're actually basically aliens.
So
that was Brother Tahuti. That's a minority position. I think the most common position among Kemets is these are stand-ins for principles or elements.
Yeah.
So Ma'at is not real.
Most of them don't think so.
Yeah.
It's rare to find one who thinks these gods are real.
That was
painful.
Amazing. So I found the whole stuff that I had about evangelical. It was at the top. So I'm gonna get back to that, but just my last little notes. So multiple times the host asks about, well, what do they believe? Well, what about this? Well, what about that? And then they never actually talk about it. Like they never actually talk about what we believe, what we do outside of, and I think this is in the second video, except outside of DNew saying like, people recite the 42 in the morning and the night and da-da-da-da. But outside of that, no mention of what we actually do, only references to stuff that you find online. So that. Now, granted, am I going to correct that? Am I going to say what we do, when we do, how we do? Hell no. so I could get attacked, so I could give them more information to attack? Hell no, I'm not gonna say that. I know what the game is. So then they say something like, oh, Christianity's a ripoff of Kemet and blah, blah, blah. Don't care. If you don't want to believe it, don't believe it. I really don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Why? Because I'm not Christian. Oh, they don't believe in the Bible? No, I'm not Christian. Do y'all believe in oh gosh, the what is it, Bhagavad Gita? Like, no, because you're not Hindu. Like, what kind of weird questions are we asking right now? So that, so who and what is Ma'at? The fact that they took out Jabari's pamphlet. Like, you know what? I'm not actually, I have the book right here, but I'm not going to read out of this book. I'm going to read out this pamphlet. Okay. Alrighty. Sure. The fact, again, I said this earlier, that he kept insisting on the 42, that they're chants. The other thing that, like, for some reason, they're really hung up on calling them the negative confessions versus laws. Like, for some reason, I don't know why they're super, like, hung up on that, but
because if they laws, then you can compare them to the biblical laws. If you call them negative confessions, then it's not the same. It's not, it's nowhere near the same. We have laws. The Bible has laws, 600 and something of them. So you have to, differentiate the two. It's apologetics.
Oh, my bad. I was unaware that we're in, like, a court somewhere. Like, my bad. So sorry. I have to justify farting. My bad. Excuse me. Like, I like, it's so nitpicky. And at the end of the day, what's the goal? Like, why are you really being so nitpicky with my word choice? It's my stuff. What you worried about? Again, I know we're here because of the people who came before, who so-called call themselves Kemetic. I get that. But, now, if we want to sit here and talk about comparing them, I mean, there's similarities, but there's similarities amongst various spiritual systems and religions. So, I mean, okay. Like, if we want to say, oh, yeah, that's kind of the same. Oh, yeah, that's kind of sounds like this. All right, whatever. But I'm not going to sit here and argue about that with you. That's such a waste of time. Why are they wasting their own time? I don't know. But again, like I said earlier, the fact that he's like, oh, they're with their pigs and their chickens, you need to get pushed down the stairs, respectfully. Like, in the nicest way possible. You just need to get down the stairs. You need to take it, sir. Later on, I don't know if it was this video or maybe it was the other one, but it was like the way they held the pamphlet. It was like, ooh, like they're gonna catch cooties from it. I thought that was pretty funny.
Hey, but
I haven't
like one of the top urban apologists, Dr. Eric Mason, said that Kemetic spirituality was demonic, and that it came from European mystics. I'm not joking either. That's a direct quote.
Oh, he doesn't pay my bills. I give no.
Adam Grabowski and others. That's who gave Afrocentrics Kemetic spirituality. No lie.
Look.
Yeah. I ain't even want to send that to you because I had sent you so much. I was like, I ain't even finna,
No, I mean, I've vaguely seen Eric Mason. I'm gonna leave that for Shaka. Shaka did it in a long time. I don't need to even talk about that. Go. And he's waiting for him too, but he won't talk to him. But I kind of understand why. If he came a little different, maybe, but he won't.
Right.
But anyway, I digress. But yeah, I mean, of course they're gonna call us, devils and demons and all these scary, spooky things that. I mean, okay, so I was talking about this with one of my coworkers, and we can have all different kinds of conversations, and it's just very interesting when we were talking about this, and it's like it's it's so offensive when Kemetic people talk about our, you know, deities. But technically, y'all believe in multiple deities too. Like you all, like, okay, but what are angels? What are, like, you all have all of like a lot of the same or similar elements. But again, you demonize us for having these elements or call us those very elements. Like, again, if it's not for the means of demeaning us for power, for control, what other function would there be for this necessity to constantly prove that you're right and real and everyone else isn't, if it isn't for supremacy?
Do you think that there is a desire to have an understanding, or is there just an attempt to tear down, debunk, and basically destroy Kemetic spirituality and detract people from you know, turning to and following it? It's not. It don't seem like it's a level of trying to understand where people are coming from.
No, but that's why I played that video in the beginning. The only reason we're being spoken to right now is because they're losing people, and they see people, you know, espousing our things, even though they're not actually following them. So therefore now, you know, and part of the people who so-called were in our camp attacked them. So now they feel like they got to do something. But again, it's all about like, oh, we're losing people. Like it was some article I was reading, and it was talking about like just revenue wise that, let me see if I think I took a screenshot of it, but just revenue wise, how they were slipping.
And this is my man, but I've never heard this before in my life.
Earlier I looked up the book from the Egyptologist he's talking about. So I do know the part that was being mentioned about like Haru, and you know that he was considered like the Watcher, or you know, like the Nasut would embody Haru, like that was his lead and deity and things like that. So therefore, if the Nasut is becoming Haru, then yes, Haru is a person, but not the way. It's not the same.
Yeah, my aunt is the daughter of Haru, and
which is odd because according to mythos, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Ma'at like put out in the beginning with the initial Ennead?
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm confused by that. So
like Haru wasn't in the original. Oh wait, no, I take that back. Haru
the Elder.
Yeah, he was. But that Haru and this Haru is not the same.
Exactly. And if any, I've heard her referenced as the daughter of Ra.
Yeah.
But not Haru. So I don't even know. Like I said, I've never seen that terminology, that connection before in my life. So.
Yeah. But I wrote it down as far as the book because now I'm nosy and I'll kind of want to see what that's about. This was written September this year. This is from Pew Research Center, Modeling the Future of Religion in America. If recent trends in religious switching continue, Christians could make up less than half of the U.S. population within a few decades. That is why they are battling us. It is that bad. But again, rather than looking in the mirror, they're pointing the finger at us. The other thing was, so they've gone down from 2007 to 2021 from 78% to 63%. People who claim no religion went from 16% to 29%. Other religions only went from 5 to 6.
Oh.
Like, y'all are concentrating on the wrong stuff. You need to concentrate on yourselves. And then they're saying like, oh, so many Black people are leaving. More white people are leaving than Black people.
I was just about to say, what do you say when they say, well, the Christian numbers are getting higher in Africa?
these people ain't talking about Africa except for the one question of, are we in Africa? They ain't concerned. They ain't talking about it. And, I mean, I think pretty much Christianity, not for nothing, I feel like they really, really want to just kick out the Islam influence. Like, I just think that's part of their axe to grind. But then also part of that is the fact that while most other countries are having declining birth rates, Africa is like pretty much the only continent with a plus birth rate anyways. So it behooves them, if they're losing numbers elsewhere, to go there. It's a political move. It's a political move disguised as, we need to share the good word. Okay, whatever you say. Like that's why, again, I'm like, I can't entertain this for real, because like she even said it herself. What was it? 10 minutes in, we need to worry. Like, we really need to be concerned because people are leaving. That's what she said. That's what this is about, out of her own mouth. Like, they're telling us exactly what they're feeling, but they're just using it as a way to try to get people back. And again, how about you worry about actually taking care of your own instead of demonizing them and kicking them out and making them feel like trash? Like empathy, that whole thing that the person you supposedly believe in, like, why don't you do a little bit of that? Because we got that. Well, not the fake ones. They don't got it. They don't got it at all. They a bunch of schoolyard children.
I know I done had you on for almost
forever.
3 hours. Like, I don't know. It seems like we always end up getting close to 3 hours for whatever reason. But
yeah,
I appreciate it. But I know you got to go to work. So
yeah, I definitely do.
That being said, are you open to a part 2 since we didn't get to the second video?
I feel like a part 2 would be way shorter.
Right.
Just because.
Well, they got another video coming out tomorrow, so I don't know. I might be sending you another video.
I saw that video you sent me the other day, and I'm just like, I gotta get my grades in. I had to do student growth objectives. I gotta decorate my room. My administrator's on my butt. I really do not need to be listening to the nonsense. I already got to be around teenagers all day listening.
I'm gonna have to wait to win a break to send you another one, because.
But no, I'll check it out. And then maybe, because my notes for the second video were just, it was very repetitive. Like, why they even came out, other than his Exodus thing, like that was the most significant thing in there. Which side note, I saw Nay Hawkins.
Yeah, that's my guy. But okay. we argue too, though. But go ahead.
Okay. So they said it was something earlier. Oh, what's wrong with using Exodus this, that, and the third? So I specifically didn't answer that, only because I know Haru the Elder is not the same as the Haru that represented the kings, though. It's not the same Haru. Shoot, now I've lost my point. Now I'm sitting here watching the chat.
He asked.
I remember.
Why can't he use the Exodus?
So it's not that I ignored the question, but I didn't want to fully answer it. I wanted to wait until that part of the video came up. So I'm putting a pin in that one. I'm not ignoring the question, but I just kind of want to show the video and then say what I have to say, so it kind of all makes sense why I'm saying what I'm saying. That's all.
Yeah, she ain't scared of you. She not scared of you, bro.
I don't even want to say I'm scared. The only thing, and again,
I'm messing with him.
Other Kemetic people that I do know, like actual practicing people, don't want to be bothered because of the disrespect, of the lack of actually wanting to have a conversation. That's why you don't see a lot of people who are not the fakers, who are not the Aunu, speaking. And I have my certain feelings about Brother Jabari. I respect him.
I was just about to ask you about that, but go ahead.
He's doing something. But you know, we're allowed to agree to disagree, and I'm gonna leave it at that because honestly speaking, one, I will never air out family business on the interwebs. Two, if I felt like saying something to him, I have the respect enough to actually say it to him. And that's it. Like it is not meant to be out there so that a bunch of other people could take what I said and then throw it in his face and try to cause isfet.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely not. So that is it. Thank y'all for sticking in here for 2 hours and 49 minutes. Thank you for having me for 2 hours and 49 minutes. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the challenges, because those things help me grow, the respectful challenges. I appreciate those very much. And feel free to join me over on Instagram or like TikTok, Facebook, etc. If you want to continue to have respectful conversations. If not, please block me. Don't talk to me.
There you go. And yeah, the sister, like I said, the sister put out great content. So whether you agree with her or disagree with her, I think she a great follow either way it goes. So I would implore you to follow her content and see what she's talking about. And like I said, everybody donate to her Cash App. It's up on the screen. Donate. I think the sister, spent basically 3 hours with us, giving us information, giving her opinion, and responding to a video just because I asked her to, because she don't even get into these conversations. So I definitely appreciate you taking the time, because I was like, man, I don't want to reach out to certain people. And, I'm like, you know what? It's like who you gonna call Ghostbusters? I was like, who I'm gonna call? Let me hit up the queen and see what we can put together. So yeah, I appreciate you answering the call and getting this done.
It's only because it's you.
I definitely appreciate it. So, but with that being said, we're gonna get ready to get out of here, family. I hope you got an idea of a real practitioner's feelings on these critiques as it pertains to the confusion between these people who are being conflated with Kemetic practitioners and people who actually are. Again, Sarah Sudden-Seti, Young Pharaoh, Brother Polite are not Kemetic practitioners. Pharaoh and Seti in particular don't even believe that the Medu Neter has been deciphered. So, so for a video to get kicked off with one of those individuals it's already like no bueno. So, we have to be at least attempt to be accurate in these discussions, because regardless of what anybody else has done, in terms of, we know people attacked Christianity. We know who bombed first. We all understand that. But I think it's incumbent upon Christians to understand that they don't represent the actual Kemetic community. And the conscious community is not part and parcel to the Kemetic community any more than the Church of Latter-day Saints is part and parcel to the Christian community. So understanding those nuances, I think, will go a long way to having more productive conversations. Because if a conversation can be productive and respectful, I think you'll have more people willing to engage. Mm-hmm. But until that happens, if you're going to confuse this sister with a sister who, just loud and belligerent, using particular kind of language, but she got an uncle on, if you're gonna confuse her with that, then what point will she have coming to the table and sitting down with you? It'll be fruitless. Now, if you come to her with respect, understanding who she is and what she represents, then maybe we can get to a starting point. And that's all we wanted to point out in this particular video. This ain't this, and that's it. So we appreciate y'all rocking with us, Queen. I will check in with you.
Oh Lord. I'm looking for the videos preemptively.
No doubt, no doubt. Hopefully you got some nice donations, and like I say, I'm gonna wait till winter break to send you any more videos. I don't want to distract you from dealing with the kiddos, but yeah, I get back to you. I'm just gonna be looking for opinions. I ain't gonna have you on to discuss this no further, unless I can get DNew to have a conversation with you, because I think she can be respectful. Not a debate. I know you ain't doing no debates, but maybe we can get y'all together and come have a respectful dialogue about what a Kemetic practitioner is versus somebody on the street yelling at you.
Need to give her information to go out there.
No information. Just showing. Look, this again. This ain't this, and that ain't that. That's all. Perhaps. Yeah. Perhaps. I know it probably ain't likely, but
you ain't about to reel me in.
Somebody asked me would this lead to a possible dialogue, and I was like, yeah, between me and Vocab, because women are more mature than us. They ain't gonna waste their time, but me and Vocab will probably have a conversation. But I already knew. I was like, yeah, the sisters ain't even about to waste their time. Her or you, for that matter. But yeah, me and Vocab will probably get on here and talk some noise. But y'all gonna be like sipping y'all tea, looking like, look at these dudes.
I'm gonna be making some promo videos for the next time. I'm gonna be finding some new songs and funny little anime characters.
Exactly. Shout out to the brother Saw. He stayed in deep the whole way. So I appreciate you, brother.
Wow. Oh, Nahem, I gotta break that habit, but y'all get it.
Yeah, I gotta learn that myself, because I'm so used to saying do I. So
the habit of it. Oh, but we'll get there.
Yep. All right, family. So we'll be back at it again. Like I say, this is my second to last show for about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. For those who don't know, I had a loss in the family, and I got to just take some time to deal with things and kind of reconvene, get my feet back under me, and come back, bigger and blacker than ever, and beating y'all over the head. So I'll be back, but after Saturday, I'm gonna be gone for a little while, and we'll get back to it. But y'all bear with me, keep the family in your thoughts and all of that stuff. But I'll definitely be back. Don't think y'all gonna be without this big head for too long. But we'll get back to it, and then when we do, we'll have some more information for you. But in the meantime, like I say, I just got to take some time off, make sure everything is situated the way it needs to be. So we'll be back at it. Y'all donate to the Queen. Again, sis, I appreciate you coming on. And that's it for Paradigm Shift TV 314 for tonight. Peace to the family. We out.
Shami Matab.